Inferior Magic Swordsman, using the skill board to become the strongest. By Hagiu Aki. Chapter 79, Meet Get. Third-person perspective. As it turned out during the assessment of the snouts, it seems that Toru and his party had unknowingly defeated a B-rank monster. However, Toru does not really feel that he has defeated a strong monster. It was the same with Esther. Did Esther-san know about Orc Kings? Marie. I knew about them, but I have not seen one, so I do not think that one could be in the middle of our hunting. Esther. A thick layer of fat protects orcs. Like a rockworm, it is a monster with high defense. When Orc Kings are leading a group of orcs, they will block escape routes or enclose them with impenetrable meat shields. For any normal adventurer, they will be killed if they do not receive any help. This is because innately, orcs have a high defense and cannot be defeated unless multiple adventurers attack them. Many adventurers will be needed to deal with a horde of orcs. However, Toru and Esther both had extremely sharp weapons. Two swords that slice through the thick fat of orcs. Magic sword, and Esther's special mithril sword. Both weapons are able to slice through an orc's strength. Toru can even shoot an arrow that pierces the thick skull of an orc king. Toru was also capable of barricading them with rock needle. They barricaded their surroundings so they would not be attacked from all directions. They just focus on attacking from a single entrance. Because of that, the Orc King's strategies are rendered useless. Toru was the natural enemy to the orcs. It must have been a nightmare to monsters who could not even use their armor of fat and renders their strategy useless. However, for Toru, the orcs were good prey. The appearance of this orc and the Orc King caused an uproar in the guild. Toru learned about this from Marie. After the completion report, Marie was in tears. I am so happy the Orc King is subdued, Marie. After leaving her crying, Toru and his party visited the dismantling room. This was the first guild facility they had entered since becoming adventurers. Toru's perspective. This is where they dismantle your monsters, and this is also where they buy the materials from you after they dismantle them. Esther. Really? I curiously looked at the room of the dismantling division. Huge saws, chisel, and mallets are hanging on the wall. If I did not know anything, I would have thought this is a carpenter's workroom. Others may mistake it for a torture room because of the faint smell of blood lingering. Oh, you need dismantling? Guild staff. As I was looking at the room, a middle-aged guild staff wearing an apron appeared. The guild staff looks strong. He has thick arms that look like he could kill people by strangling them. Yes, please dismantle some orcs. Okay. Where is the orc? Guild staff. Oh, can I take it out? Take it out. Oh, you are the one with inventory. Guild staff. The staff, who had wrinkles between his eyebrows before, suddenly his expression brightened. I was really saved at that time. I cannot speak for everybody in Finlis, but I am an example of the people who are grateful to you. Guild staff. No. When people are in trouble, we have to help each other. The staff said that time was after the attack on Finlis. The day after the attack, the reconstruction of Finlis began. The first step is to remove the debris. Anyone can help in this job. Whether you are craftsmen, tradesmen, adventurers, or merchants, all of them were soot-covered and worked hard to remove the debris. Meanwhile, I quickly removed the debris using inventory. Originally, I did not want to use inventory in public. However, seeing everyone sweating and covered with soot, I did not feel like hiding inventory anymore. If I kept hiding my skill, an essential part of my humanity would be lost. Therefore, I used inventory to remove the debris. Thanks to that, if you need anything, tell me right away. I will help you no matter what, since you might not be physically strong. Guild staff, thank you. The number of people who are looking at me in a positive light has increased. I came to Eiga and felt gratitude from the people I have met. Something that did not happen to me in Tokyo. Lid. The number of people who will be on our side has increased by a lot. I felt a bit sad, but then I remembered what I had to do. Then, please dismantle the orcs. Okay. Guild staff, with that said, I took out the orcs from my inventory, one after another. Oh, hey. How many of you hunted? Guild staff, 217 in total. Huh? Guild staff, my words seem to have surprised the guild staff. There is no doubt that the number of hunted monsters is equal to the number of snouts that Marie checked in the sack. Advertisements, Toru. To be exact, we hunted 220 orcs. But around 3 orcs got mangled. Esther, oh, that is right. I am now able to defeat the orcs efficiently, but at first, it was a series of overkills. As long as I have a snout that can serve as proof, the guild can then count the number of subjugated monsters. However, some orcs' carcasses were completely destroyed that even their snouts could not be taken. That amounted to 3. What there? How many did you bring? Guild staff, I hunted 220 orcs, but some of them have been ruined, so it is already less than 220. About 150 can be used for meat, I guess. Guild staff, the expression disappeared from the staff's face. His gaze became unfocused. He began to stare at an empty space. Somehow, you can protect yourself enough even if I do not offer you my help. Guild staff, no, there are things I cannot do. After all you have done for me, what can I do for you? Guild staff, well, I contemplated for a while. I did not know what I could and could not do, even though I have lived for 32 years. Even if I think I am not good at it, sometimes things work out unexpectedly when I try some things. Moreover, so is the reverse. I cannot really know anything without trying it. So, is it okay to take out all the orcs? Yeah, I think we can just about make it. I will gather the other bastards and dismantle it with them, but it will not be done today. You can pick up the magic stones and meet the day after tomorrow. Guild staff, okay, but can you give me a chunk of meat for now? Sure. Guild staff, the staff were dismantling the orc. His handiwork was nothing short of brilliant. I blinked once, the skin was already peeled off, and the meat was immediately being removed from the bones. Watching the dismantling was enough to kill time. While watching, the staff brought out a chunk of meat wrapped in paper. It has been less than 5 minutes. It is a pretty quick job. However, not all have been dismantled. He dismantled only the chunk of meat that I asked for. I kept you waiting. Guild staff, no problem, thank you. See you tomorrow. Sure. Guild staff, I took the meat, threw it into my inventory, and headed home with Esther. Chapter 80, Compensation for Good Food. When we got home, I froze when I saw the changes in the living room. Welcome back, Lily. I am home. Lily was sitting on a chair in the middle of the living room. A lot of paper was scattered around her. I am not sure what to do. There is no place to step on. Of course, Lily was the cause. While I was looking on in amazement, Lily was drawing something on the paper with her brush. When it was finished, Lily dropped the paper on the floor. What are you doing? I am making a magic scroll. Lily. Ah. I see, I thought. Lily is the manager of a magic scroll store. All her merchandise at her magic scroll store was lost in the big fire the other day. Lily is currently making new scrolls to stock up her store. I felt a small amount of magical power in Lily's hand. By drawing symbols and patterns with magical power, it becomes a magic scroll like Toru used. As I watched her work for a short while, Lily suddenly sank to the table. At the same time, a sound echoed from Lily's stomach. I am hungry. Lily. Have you not have any lunch yet? I ate. A little. Lily. Lily glances at the sofa. A half-eaten meat skewer was precariously placed there. It is a meat skewer sold in one of the food stalls in the city. It was not delicious. Lily. When she said that, she glared at me. I do not remember doing anything wrong. I am innocent. I raises my hand and shook my head. I now have an extravagant palate. Lily. Ha ha. Apparently, the food yesterday and this morning made Lily's taste a little extravagant. Certainly, if you have an extravagant palate, you cannot eat this meat skewer. I strongly agreed with Lily. Lily. We all share this house. People should be able to walk around. Mew, Lily. Lily, if you eat ice there, it will get dirty. Please clean it up while I am cooking food. Since you asked. Lily. Yes, I asked. And I nodded, smiling at Lily, who looks like a petulant child. Esther's cheeks slightly swelled while I was talking to Lily. Was something bothering her? I pondered, but I cannot think of anything. For the time being, I shelved the question in the back of my mind, and I went to the kitchen to make a supper. By the time I finished cooking and preparing the food, the living room had returned to the same tidy state as this morning. Esther and Lily, who were waiting for dinner, directed shining eyes towards me. Next to that, Pino jumps over and over as if he were saying, I am here too. Pino, like a dog, welcomed him back home and found out that I was cooking, so he also went to the living room. Smart. I placed a plate in front of each of them, smiling brilliantly at Pino's cuteness. Today's dish is steak. Oh. Esther and Lily. Poyon, Pino. I grilled the orc meat with finesse. The seasoning is simply salt and pepper. It is like an A5 rank, Chateaubriand. Note, so A5 Chateaubriand is similar to a filet mignon. The A5 ranking means that it is high class and cannot be found in ordinary stores but in special high-class stores. Because of the high fat content of the meat, it was heavily seasoned to make it taste best. I took a seat and put my hands together. Itadaki, note, Itadaki must literally meaning, I humbly receive, is like a prayer or a saying Japanese people say before meals. Like thanks or blessing for the meal. Similar to bon appetit or thanks for the food. Wait a moment. Esther interrupted my words with a serious tone. She got up from her seat and picked up Lily's plate. Lily, who was about to eat steak, raised her eyes. Fight? Lily's whole body became filled with magical power. Due to her strong magical power, the knife and fork began to deform. Why did Lily think she could eat steak? Esther. What do you mean? Lily, this is the orc that I and Dora hunted. I think Lily, who has not hunted orc with me and has not helped, can have steak for free at no cost. Esther. I am not. Shut up, Toru. Esther. Advertisements. Right. Lily. For me, I am willing to offer Lily food without a cost. However, Esther glared at me, and I hurriedly conceded. It is not a very peaceful atmosphere. The house we promised to share, but not the meals. Esther. Lily, and Lily-san is an adventurer. I think you know how important the idea of price is to an adventurer. Esther. Adventurers are neither doing charity nor working for their citizens as public servants. There is always a price, and every adventurer works due to that. If they start working without compensation, it will become commonplace for them to work without compensation. Because of such a small number of individuals, all legitimate adventurers who move for a price will be seen as greedy adventurers. To prevent that, adventurers value the price of work. They do not demand money, but they demand compensation. Lily's gaze went to the floor. There were a few tears in her eyes. Lily-san. Lily. I wanted to say something, but before I could, Lily stood up vigorously and ran out of the living room. Did she get angry? My heart grew cold due to the horrible atmosphere. Toru. Did you understand what I was saying? Esther. No. Esther is not wrong. Lily is not family. Not even a companion. She is just a housemate in a shared living space. It is only natural that I give her food and asks for compensation. If we do not solve this first, it will become a bigger problem later. Esther. Yeah. That is true. The more you put up with it, the more resentment could pile up. As much as I do not want to, I will ask for compensation. It is normal for every person living here. That said, I still did not like this kind of atmosphere. I want to live without hurting anyone if possible. For that reason, I just have to put up with it. On the other hand, I might suffer a disadvantage in the long run. It is many times better than facing the consequence. Would she want to eat steak? No. In this state, she will not be able to eat it with gusto. As soon as my shoulders dropped in resignation, footsteps approached from the outside of the living room. The door opened, and Lily, who had a slightly teary face, appeared. She was holding a black cloth between her hands. As she approached me, Lily offered the cloth. This. Lily. I will give this. I get a meal. Lily. Apparently, Lily brought the compensation Esther said because she wanted to eat the steak. I received it and spread it. A coat? It looks like a trench coat. However, the fabric is thinner than a coat. Sage's robe. Excellent defense. Lily. Oh. While wearing it, it will become familiar with the magical power of the owner. The more you use it, the stronger it will become. Lily. Wow. Did Lily make this? I got it from my master. Where it is your magic grows? Lily. Well, is not it bad if you give it away? I do not know who Lily's master is. However, I do not think it is a good idea to casually give it away. It is fine. It does not suit me. Lily. So I checked and I realized she was telling the truth. For Lily, who looks like a girl, the green robe she is currently wearing looks better than the black one. Also, this robe is too big for Lily's body. It is light and it is also the perfect size for me. Unfortunately, Lily did not seem to be growing much. So can I eat? Lily. Lily's voice was terribly soft. She sounds afraid that she would be turned down. Do you want to eat my food so much? I glanced at Esther, a little confused by Lily's attitude. I got nothing. Esther did not give anything away. I was imagining how much meal I would give as compensation. Well, if this okay with you, it is okay with me. I have not given anything to Esther, is that okay? Lily. Oh. It is Toru who cooks? Esther, I see. Lily. However, I felt it was a little too much. I will use this robe properly. Lily-san, you can eat all the dishes I make for free. Really? Lily. Lily's expression became brighter. Esther screamed a little, hey, but immediately shook her head. She probably also realized that the robe was worth it. When everyone sat down in the chair, I took the lead again and started on my steak. Everyone ate the steak and silently ate. We all wanted to eat steak rather than say a word. The taste of meat was better than I thought. Chapter 81, Aaron's Return. Third-person perspective. Dilmut, the guild master of the Finless Adventurers Guild, returns to his office with a bitter smile at Marie, who keeps bowing in front of him. Master, I am very sorry. Marie, no, it is okay, come on, raise your head. Aaron, the reason why Marie is bowing is because of the way she handled things while Aaron was away. Aaron was on a business trip to the royal capital. Meanwhile, an Orc King was discovered in the northern part of the Finless forest. An Orc King is a B-rank monster. The Orc King's high defensive power and commanding ability can make it difficult for even the Silverwing Knights to protect the royal capital. If the Orcs left the forest and approached the city of Finless, an unimaginable amount of damage was to be expected. Therefore, Marie, who moved in anticipation of an emergency, is not wrong. Rather, the quickness of her decision is commendable. To defend the city, in the absence of a guild master, Aaron, it is not possible for an average employee to make such a hard decision. Knights under the umbrella of national and local aristocrats are properly armed. However, it will take time to move once the incident occurs. On the other hand, the Adventurers Guild has a different fighting force including their hierarchy, but their initial action is usually quick. Therefore, regarding the defense of Finless, the Adventurers Guild is required to play the role of defenders until the Knights can move. In other words, as a staff member of the Adventurers Guild, Marie fulfilled her role perfectly. Even if the Orc King had been subdued before the subjugation unit moved. I am just out of luck this time, and you did not do anything wrong. Rather you should be proud. Aaron, but I have spent the guild's money at my own discretion. Marie, in the end, she did not deploy the adventurers she gathered, but she still paid some rewards when she dispersed them. However, that is also a necessary expense, Aaron thought. No problem. Rather, the Adventurers Guild is an organization dedicated to defending Finless, so I think it makes sense to let them know. Aaron, what you should never do when you are on the defense is to assume a future where nothing will happen. Defense is not about keeping damage small. It is for not receiving any damage. A future where there was no damage is the best form of defense they should aim for. In that respect, Marie's actions are perfectly in line. Perhaps it was just after the Finless attack that these actions were taken despite the absence of Guild Master Aaron. On the contrary, it was Aaron's responsibility. The reception department chief was left vacant. The chief of the reception department has practically the same power as a sub-guild master. This is because the chief receptionist manages and undertakes all administrative procedures. The guild system should be stabilized immediately. Aaron, fortunately, Philip's successor has been decided. Marie is the person who showed a glimpse of his talent in an emergency. He is still a little worried about her practical experience, but that will come naturally to her if she works for the guild. The important thing is to have a good eye for information and the courage to make important decisions. The Finless Guild still has talented people. Just knowing that Aaron believed he could run their guild with confidence. I have been having a tough time myself, you know. I was squeezed hard at the guild headquarters in the royal capital. I have been berated at the guild headquarters in King's Landing for not managing the guild well enough, for not being aware enough despite being a master. I was scolded endlessly. I am not sure what to do anymore. Aaron, Marie, oh yeah. I bought a souvenir from the royal capital, so give it to everyone. Aaron, Marie. Marie looked confused when she was given sweets sold in the royal capital. What kind of face should she make while giving out souvenirs from someone who was not in the guild during an emergency? This is what Marie should be thinking, Aaron thought. However, it is the responsibility of the boss to work for everyone and to be resented by everyone. Aaron pushed the cookies against Marie with a smile. After a long sermon at the guild, I got a request. Next week, the order of succession to the throne will finally be announced. Aaron! Marie. It sounded so casual to Marie, as if she is receiving a request. The announcement of the successor to the throne is a major event for the kingdom of Yusta. There are currently 3 princes in the kingdom. Since the king is still young, there is a possibility that the number of princes will still continue to increase. Announcement of the successor to the throne at this time does not simply decide on which prince will succeed. It is also a declaration that any prince born after will not be chosen as a successor. It is an announcement that will determine the future of the kingdom. It will be a big one, raising the country. It is a request from the Silverwing Knights, who are in charge of guarding the royal capital, but they want adventurers to be in charge of patrolling the royal capital. Aaron, in other words, we will send people from Finlay's guild. Marie, exactly. Aaron, how many people do we need? Marie, as fast as Aaron snapping his finger, he decided. It is a good thing both of them are quick thinkers. Because of that, they can plan faster. Just 2. Marie. Aaron did not miss Marie's sigh of relief. The current Finlay's guild is overwhelmingly understaffed. Many adventurers have been taking requests to help in Finlay's recovery. The guild is currently silent not just because of trust issues, but also, many adventurers are involved in requests with long-term contracts, escorting materials, construction, and maintenance. Now the guild is in dire need of helping hands. If many adventurers are sent to the royal capital, the guild will have trouble supplementing the requests needed for the recovery of Finlis. Marie was relieved that they did not have to dispatch a lot of people. In fact, the guild headquarters told Aaron to send out many adventurers. However, he explained that Finlis in quite a dire situation and negotiated on sending only a small number of adventurers. The result is 2 people. Suddenly, Marie opened her mouth. Have those 2 adventurers already been decided? Marie, it looks as if she noticed something. She does have sharp senses. Aaron pulled out a piece of paper from the drawer, smiling with satisfaction. It is a nomination request from the guild. Give this to the 2 of them. Aaron, is it okay? There are many other talented people. Marie, of course. Aaron, by the time he heard this request, Aaron had already decided on his candidates. So far, the duo has solved many situations. All of these problems would have led Finlay's on a road to destruction if left unsolved. Then there is the Orc King's subjugation. It is as if they have received God's blessing. No, he has probably already received it. God's blessing, Aaron. Then, the answer has been decided. With God's blessing, any problem can be solved. Because they were chosen by God. However, this time it is an escort mission in the royal capital. Besides, the Silverwing Knights also provide strict security. Ability is not really important. Since there are the Silverwing Knights, it is unlikely that a big event will happen. The guild is not required to send a hero-class adventurer. Aaron, Chapter 82, Nominated Request. The next day, after training in the morning and having breakfast, Esther and I visited the guild. The dismantling of the orcs will be completed tomorrow. I visited the guild today to receive a new request. We made a bit of a mistake yesterday, so we will have to be a bit more efficient today. I hunted 220 orcs the other day, but only 5 were needed to complete the request. Beyond that, the others were irrelevant to the fulfillment of a request. Unlike a permanent request, a normal request is finished once it is completed. If the requirement is to kill 5 targets, it does not matter if you hunt 10 or 100, it only counts as 1. Are you thinking of putting just enough effort for subjugation requests? Esther. Nope. I am an inferior person. As long as I am an inferior, I must accumulate more experience points than others must. Furthermore, I have a theory that leveling should be done with high efficiency. Fortunately, the battle against the orcs is one in which accidents such as injury or loss of life do not occur. If there is no danger of death, I would like to aim to level up with the highest efficiency. By leveling yesterday when he defeated 220 animals, my level increased by 2. Status: Toru Minasuki. Level 33. Race: human. Primary job: swordsman. Secondary job: mage. Rank: 3 skill points, 516 536. I was pleased with this result because it was difficult to raise my level even when I defeated many goblins. If we do our best leveling up for a week, I will probably be able to reach level 40. The higher my level, the lower my risk of dying. In addition, since the skill points increase, it becomes easier to acquire skills to keep my life safer. They should level up as much as they can whenever they can. It was a shame that most of the orcs I defeated became pointless in clearing the quest. If possible, I want to clear multiple requests while leveling up. While I was looking at the bulletin board looking for such a request, Toru-san, Esther-san, good morning. Marie, the receptionist, called out to us. Marie-san, good morning. Good morning, Marie, Esther. Do both of you have some time to talk? Marie. ? Esther and Toru. What is going on? Esther and I looked at each other. Actually, I have a request for both of you. Marie. A nominated request. Esther. Esther suddenly smiles. A nominated request. A nominated request is a request for a specific adventurer. I have heard that nominated requests are only given to the best, but I never thought I'd get one so soon. Esther, wow. Seeing Esther rejoicing, I think it might be similar to getting recruited for professional baseball. If it is similar, it is no wonder that she is happy to be nominated. Is not Dora happy? We were both nominated, you know. Esther. If I say I am not happy, I would be lying. However, I had something else to worry about. What is the content of the request? If a nominated request is only given to strong individuals, can we handle the request? I am an inferior person. Would not an inferior person be lacking ability? I became anxious. This is what the nominated request contains. It is a patrol mission at the royal capital, Yusta. Marie. Oh, the royal capital. At the royal capital. Esther. Since coming to Eargard, I have only seen Finlis so far. If Finlis is considered a big and developed city, what kind of city will the royal capital be? First and foremost, I can already expect it to be larger than Finlis. I have to go sightseeing. I was delighted. However, unlike me, enthusiasm drained from Esther. This request is from the Silverwing Knights. The ceremony to announce the succession to the throne will be held, and the Adventurers Guild has requested that we send someone to patrol. As for the security content, it is confidential in nature. I am sorry, it is not something that can be easily divulged to the guild. Marie. Silverwing Knights. The Order of the Silverwings is a knight unit that protects the royal capital of Yusta. It is a different size, but think of them as the guardians of Finlis. Marie. I see. So, is the patrol mission a job that can be performed by D-rank adventurers? That is what I care the most about. I am glad that we were nominated. However, if it is not a job suitable for us, even if we accept it, we will just fail. Please be assured. Being a patrolman can be done by D-rank adventurers. Marie. Then, everything looks okay. Esther? Esther puts her hand on her chin and seems to be thinking about something. Is there something to worry about? I asked Esther. We can accept this request, right? Esther. D rankers are already considered as veterans, so yes. Marie, after muttering, Esther raised her face as if she had discarded a weight off her shoulders. Let's accept the request. Esther, thank you. Marie, therefore, it was decided that we would head to the royal capital. A horse-drawn carriage can reach the royal capital, yes sir, after 2 days. It is for 4 days when on foot. The patrol mission is on a fairly tight schedule. It will start after 4 days. The guild suggested us to travel in a carriage, but I declined and decided to walk. The reason was simply that the carriage was very expensive. For me, 5 silver coins just to reach the royal capital seemed very expensive. 5 silver coins? If I have 50,000 yen, I can have an enjoyable trip when going to Okinawa. 50,000 yen is too expensive for a one-way ticket to the royal capital. Toru. What if we do not make it in time? Esther, it is okay. We will be on time. The moving speed of the carriage is said to be about 6 to 11 kilometers per hour. Faster than walking, but slower than marathon runners. If our physical ability improved by us leveling up, we will not have any trouble in continuously running at an average of 11 kilometers per hour. Therefore, we get ready for our trip to the royal capital and greeted Lily. Opening parenthesis. When Lily found out that her personal chef, me, would be out of town for a while, she held us back for a while with a teary-eyed expression. Early morning the next day after accepting the nominated request, Esther and I passed through the north gate towards the royal capital. If we go straight on this road, we will eventually reach the royal capital. Esther, then, let's go. After passing through the gate, we began to walk outside. Fortunately, we both have inventory. We have all the necessary items for camping, but all of them can be stored in our inventory. Thanks to that, we were able to run without any baggage weighing us down. At first, we check your physical conditions. Soon we began accelerating. Esther, can you still go faster? Of course. But can Toru catch up to me? Esther, oh, is that so? While laughing, we dashed over the road to the royal capital, as if we were racing against each other. Compared to when we first met, our physical abilities have improved dramatically. Even if I run with all my might, I do not feel short of breath. After running at top speed for a while, the two of us eventually settled at a speed that could be maintained for a longer time. As long as we are running at this speed, we can continuously keep running. It is not painful, but it is still not that easy because we are still running. To just do this for hours. I do not know how many kilometers per hour we are currently running, but we will be running for more than a day. Moreover, I am tired of looking at the endless fields. What do marathon runners think about while they are running? Is not it quite boring to run for a long time? If I had a smartphone with me, I could be running while browsing the internet. I had that much time to waste. Similar to the ancient Greeks, when the body has some leeway, one works his mind. Because of working my mind, I came up with an idea. A method that will allow me to move more easily and train efficiently. Chapter 83, Traveling to the Royal Capital, Freestyle. Earth Shrink. Hyafu. Note, Shukuchi is a skill, technique used in anime or manga similar to short-distance teleportation. It literally means, shrink earth technique. Toru. Just run normally. Esther. Esther's disgruntled voice reaches my ears. However, I barely registered Esther's voice. I am doing my best with magical control. This is my plan while running. Is there any way that I can run while doing some special training? Then I came up with the idea to accelerate using Ikata. When I kick against the ground, I simultaneously fire a dull, ikata, on my back. Then, like being launched by a catapult, my body accelerates instantaneously. Just like the moves used by top Japanese swordsmen, this allows me to close the gap between my opponent in an instant. I will use the name Earth Shrink to familiarize my own body by repeating it multiple times. However, this movement technique is not easy. It puts a lot of strain on my feet when I jump and land. I think it can be activated several times during battles, but it does not seem suitable for continuous long-distance travel. So while I had been practicing Earth Shrink for quite some time, I thought further. Can I improve my movement? Can I train my magic further? As I keep on thinking about what to do, an idea flashed. Just combine it. Use rock needle to evenly flatten out the bumps on the road. Then spray water on it with a water ball. Fireball was enchanted on the back of my shoes, and I catapult myself using ikata. Fireball does not conduct heat to the caster's body. However, there is a catch. I knew this from the training while Lily was teaching me. When I bring a fireball close to the ground splashed by water ball, the water boils in an instant. The steam expands the space between my shoe and the ground. The body floats. In that state, what happens if I hit myself with ikata? Like hovercraft, my body moves forward. This is what I came up with while using my free time from running, a movement technique that also includes magic control training at the same time. However, this movement technique has a fatal drawback. It is very difficult to balance. I have to keep my arms wide to balance, and I do not spread my feet too far apart. T/N. How does he move with his feet together? This was the most stable posture. If I change my posture even a little bit, I will most likely face plant due to the incredible momentum. I concentrate on training my magic while maintaining a posture similar to the Titanic pose. T/N. Esther's perspective, seeing Toru like that, I earnestly wished, I beg you please run like a normal person. Toru's eccentricity was not born just today or yesterday. For a long time, Toru had enchanted multiple lighting into his futon and made it float and spin by just continuously enchanting it with lighting. He insists that it is magic draining, but for me, it did not seem like draining at all. Moreover, this is his most eccentric moment. Toru was sliding forward at an incredible speed without moving up or down, maintaining his posture as if he were a god who had come down to save the people. However, Toru does not seem godly at all, but something evil. Especially, as he moves at an explosive speed with steam rising, making a sizzling sound beneath his feet. In addition to that, Toru is wearing the black sage robe given by Lily, so he looks like a dangerous individual with who you should get involved. I want Toru to become conscious of what he looks like as he runs with me. Gods. Please make Toru run like a normal person. Esther, I kept praying to the gods. I hope that Toru, who devised this terrifying way of moving, will not be seen by anyone, and notice me running alongside Toru. Toru's perspective, as the sun was going down. Beyond the horizon, I saw a faint image of a huge city. The capital, Yusta. Neither Esther nor I expected it, but apparently, we were running quite fast. The fact that the carriage arrived at 10 kilometers per hour in 2 days, us doing so in 1 day means that we were running at 20 kilometers per hour. Speaking of 20 kilometers per hour, it is on par with Earth's world record holder for a full marathon run. T/N. Eliud Kipchoge is the world record holder for the marathon. His speed is approximately 13 miles per hour or 20.9 kilometers per hour. All according to Google Sensei, that is a full day of running at the full speed of a marathon runner. Moreover, we are not that tired yet. Even if monsters sometime from now attack us, we still have enough strength to fight several monsters. The benefits of leveling up were greater than I had imagined. Fortunately, there was nothing to stop us. I thought monsters would attack us at least once, but I was surprised that we were never attacked, not even once. Not a monster came out. I also wanted to get some experience points. I felt sad and my shoulders sagged. They are probably. Toru does not understand that with such a dangerous-looking movement, even monsters would not approach. Only Toru himself does not realize this. Esther's shoulders even sagged in defeat. Toru wanted to run full force until he reached Esther. However, Esther cries and begs of, "Stop it." Made him run normally during the middle of the travel. Toru never understood why Esther wanted to stop him with his magic training. Is it because if I use magic near the royal capital, the guards will be wary of us? Yes, I told myself. What is it? Esther, Chapter 84, What I Want in the Royal Capital. What is it? I felt a little uncomfortable when I passed through the gates of the royal capital. It was like breaking through a thin film. What is wrong, Toru? Esther. Nothing. When I entered the capital, I felt a strange sensation. Oh. It must be the royal capital's barrier. Esther. Barrier? I was confused by Esther's words. There are several barriers that surround the capital and it protects the royal castle. Perhaps Toru felt one of them, the magic stone poison barrier. When a strong monster enters, it gets affected. Poison accumulates in the magic stone of the monster, and their movements become limited. Esther. There is such a barrier. Oh, but how does Esther know the barrier of the royal capital? Would not that information require a very high security clearance, especially about a barrier that protects the royal capital? Esther shakes her head to my question. Only this barrier is within the public's knowledge because some races have magic stones in them. Esther, I see. If the information is not disclosed, races with magic stones who came to sightsee might die without knowing the reason. Also, it does not react to the magic stones of weak monsters. Esther, why? Would not it be bad if a monster like a silver wolf gets in? Yes, but slimes are bred in the royal capital. Esther, oh, when you say that. I see. Slimes are useful for human life. That is why, if slimes are affected by the monster stone poison barrier, they will not be able to treat sewage and leftover food in the royal capital. I think it is well thought out. While muttering, we stepped into the royal capital. Yusta, the capital of the kingdom of Yusta, was a huge city that surpassed Finlis in everything. Yusta is a complex city consisting of 5 towns. It has more than 200,000 inhabitants and is over 10 kilometers in size and diameter. As I passed through the city gates, I could see a huge structure in the distance. It was the royal castle, the symbol of the kingdom of Yusta. Wow! I sighed in admiration when I saw the huge royal castle. It looks big even from a distance. If we approach, we would be reduced to the size of a grain of rice relative to the castle's size. The streets of the royal capital were more magnificent than Finlis. Every visible part of the main street was made of stone. Even the white walls and red roofs fascinated me, who was used to living in Finlis. The wooden houses are nice and tasteful, but the stone houses are also nice. I walked along, careful not to be left behind by Esther. This feeling of awe is the same as the day I first visited Diagad. It has only been less than a month, but it feels like a long time ago. That is how much time I had spent in the city of Finlis. Esther, where are we heading now? First of all, I am thinking of securing an inn. Esther, I see. Esther walks along the road of the royal capital without hesitation. The steps are very certain. After walking for a while, we arrived at an inn. It was a fairly large and fine inn. Excuse me. Is there any vacant room? Esther, welcome. We will check it now, so please be patient. Inn receptionist. The reception is quite accommodating. It seems to be a very high-class inn. Will the money be enough? I was quite worried. Contrary to my worries, the accommodation fee was 1 silver coin per night. It is expensive compared to the inn that I used. He got the house, but it is not expensive for an inn in the royal capital. Securing 2 single rooms, and we both head to our own rooms immediately. Entering the room, I took out my luggage from my inventory. It was at that time. The pocket on my waist vibrated slightly. Strangely, I turn it upside down. Then, Pinot with his purple core popped out of my pocket. I should have left Pinot in our house in Finlis. I remember seeing Pinot swaying in my room. It looks sad. Are you going to be fine? It made me a bit lonely. Pinot should be in my room back in Finlis. After I confirmed that, we left home. Nothing should have come out, but for some reason, Pinot came out of the pocket. What the heck? Peru, Pinot. My chest constricted after I realized that Pinot followed me. I already wanted to forgive him and hug him, but things are different. I told you to wait in the room, and you cannot follow me, right? Furu, Pinot. Were you lonely? When it acted cutely, it had already become difficult for me to be mad. I was worried for a while, but in the end, I forgave and accepted everything in the name of the lovely swaying figure of Pinot. At dinner time, we went to the dining room at one time, meeting with Esther, and we had a meal together. The food is about the same as the Finlis Inn where I was staying previously. It is edible. As our palates become extravagant in the last few days, Esther just ate half of the steak and poked it around, and there is no sign of her planning to finish it. I also ate half of the steak and drank only water. As for Pinot, he swallowed the whole steak but escaped into my pocket as if it had eaten something rotten. It seems that it was not delicious for the slime either. I never thought that Pinot would come with you. Esther, yeah. I will try not to let him interfere with the request. Can I take him with us? We cannot really leave Pinot in the inn. If the inn staff find him, he might be taken away. Pinot may be thrown into the waste bin of the inn. It is unclear if he can really be sent in the kitchen waste bin, but he might be thrown outside or crushed like a bug. Either way, there does not seem to be any good scenarios. Is not it okay? This time it is not a subjugation request, but a patrol request. If it does not attack people, it is okay to have it stay with us. Esther, oh, thank you. Esther accepts Pinot as a companion, and I am immediately relieved. By the way, what are we planning on doing tomorrow? Is there any place you want to go? Esther. We are going to the headquarters of the Silverwing Knights, right? I am going to go, but the promised date is the day after tomorrow. We arrived earlier than I expected, and we still have a day left. Esther, why do not we go the first and take care of the registration? The Silverwing Knights do not have time to waste. It is just a nuisance if you ask at an unscheduled time. Esther, I think that it is highly probable. Suddenly looking at my feet, she then looks at me. Then, do you want to look for shoes? Esther, shoes? Yeah. It seems that they have finally been quite worn down. Esther, with that said, I smiled bitterly. The shoes that I am wearing have already been used by Lyd for quite some time. As he was a hunter, Lyd's shoes were solid, unlike his clothes. Even so, the soles of his shoes had begun to peel off, unable to withstand the abuse I might have dealt it. The toes of his shoes were so thin that it is a miracle that there are no holes. It was also because of the repeated hit-and-run battles with monsters. It is not that I was using them badly. I would like to think so. Are Toru's shoes made for combat? Esther: No, I do not think. Then it is no wonder they are ruined. Esther smiled wryly. Apparently, the way I used shoes was not bad. I felt quite the relief. My own is for combat shoes, but it has been 3 years since I bought it. It is time to replace it with a better one. Esther crossed her arms and tightened her expression as if she had made up her mind. That is right. That is probably just what I need. Esther: What is wrong? No, it is nothing. I happen to know a store that sells combat shoes. I am going to pay them a visit tomorrow. Esther: Yeah, see you tomorrow. With that said, we went to our separate rooms. On the plates left on a table, lonely steaks that were half-eaten were left all alone. Chapter 85, one of the largest stores in the royal capital. The next day, Esther took me to an armor store called Regulus Trading Company. Weapons store, armor store, kitchen equipment store, carpentry tool store, magic scroll store, woodwork store, stonework store. The street where the store is located is in a district with specialized stores. There are a variety of specialized supply stores line up the street. Among them, the largest was Regulus Trading Company. This shop does not produce armor but distributes and sells armor made by contracted artisans. Regulus Trading Company handles high-quality armor that other stores cannot offer due to our exclusive contracts with skilled craftsmen. Such a bold statement was posted next to the entrance. Even though it was just after opening, there were already many adventurers in the store. This alone indicates the popularity of the Regulus Trading Company in Yusta. Toru: This is the shoe rack. Esther: Esther pulled me and we head for the shoe rack while moving through the large number of armors placed within the store. On the way, Clark, a female clerk who passed by, saw us and was slightly startled. What is it? I became anxious and confused. It is a pretty big store. Maybe we have to be qualified to enter it, similar to a brand name store. The store was as large as a home improvement store in Japan. There is also a wide selection of products. It seems that it will take all day to just look at the insides of the store. From here to there are the shoe racks. Esther: After walking for a while, I finally arrive in the shoe area. Shoes of various shapes are neatly displayed on the shelves. All shoes were for combat professionals such as adventurers and knights. All are solidly made. I checked the products one by one, starting from the edge of the shelf. Wow! It is amazing. It is quite solid. What kind of leather is it? It is rockworm leather. Esther: That is the one they are talking about. It is a material that Esther tried to peel off before, but it could not be peeled off because I tore them apart. The texture is a little rugged, and even if I push my finger against it, it does not deform. The defense power is outstanding. Will Toru be choosing the rockworm leather shoe? Esther: No. I shook my head. I did not think I would buy it because I knew where it originally came from. No matter how good the material is, it is originally from a worm. It was when we were choosing shoes. Excuse me. Esther-sama? A clerk called to us. It was the clerk who got startled a little while ago. Esther-sama? I was dumbfounded by the words of the clerk. For as long as I was in Igad, this is only the second time I have heard the title of Sama. The first when Finlace's chief butler addressed his lord. Other than that, I have never heard the title of Sama. Marie, the receptionist, also added San when calling me. That is why I was strongly caught up in the fact that the clerk added a Sama in addressing Esther. Esther, who was called while she was looking at the swords, nodded slightly. To her. Esther: Thank God. We've been waiting for you for a long time, Esther-sama. Dana-sama has been waiting for you. Come on in. Clark, no, I just came as a guest. Esther, come on, come on. Clark, the clerk does not listen to Esther's words, and grabs her arm and pulls her. If Esther were serious, it would have been easy to pull away from the clerk. The reason she did not resist the clerk is that she did not really want to. Toru. I heard a sorrowful voice from Esther as she was taken away. I, who was intending to see her off, sighed, there is no helping it, and followed Esther. Esther was brought to a back room for employees behind the counter. The inventory of armors is lined up there. Most of the inventory was of items that were available in the store. However, there might be some items that are not in the storefront. These special items are probably only offered when their customers ask for them. Is there any rare equipment here? I looked around the back room. If time and the shop would allow it, I wanted to check everything here as well. After walking around the back room for a while, we arrived at the office at the back of the store. Excuse me. Dana-sama. I brought Hester-sama. Clark, pass through. Store owner, a profound voice echoed from the office. Upon hearing the voice, I went on alert by reflex. It was a voice with a strong amount of dominance. When we entered the office, a slightly overweight middle-aged man was sitting in the chair at the back. This man is the owner of the voice I heard earlier. Laughter lines are deeply engraved around his eyes and mouth. Looking at that alone, I feel that he could be a good person. However, unlike his facial expression, his eyes are sharp. This man. He is no ordinary person. The man stands up from his chair. Immediately, my spine tensed. What? What will happen? The man opened his mouth, while I ready myself. Esther Chihuahuan. Store owner, Chapter 86, Esther's father. You are alive. I have missed you. I have missed Bugger Bogger. Store owner. The man opened his arms and charged at Esther. Esther, who was about to be hugged, shifted slightly. Avoiding the man's hug, Esther tripped the man's foot. The man fell brilliantly and face-planted. In just a second. I was so stunned by the suddenness of everything. I could not keep up with the situation at all. Oh, Esther-chan's love is heavy. Even after a long time. Store owner. What love? Esther. Esther bowed to me. Esther? Oh, sorry Toru. This is my dad. Esther. Esther made a terribly disgusted face and pointed to the man who was face down, squirming, while holding his face. It is not the face that looks at their own father. Toru. Who is this bastard? Esther's dad. Suddenly Esther's father stood up and glared at me. His eyes are so sharp that I cannot think of anyone who would say Esther Chihuahuan. Nice to meet you. My name is Toru Minasuki. What? I did not ask for this bastard here. The man gets closer and aggressively but dismissively points at me. He is like a delinquent. Why is there a milk-sucking bastard here, Anne? Esther's dad. Father, stop threatening my companion. Esther. Huh? The fact that this bastard appeared with Esther-chan. No way with Esther-chan. Esther's dad. Do not get me wrong. Toru is my companion. Esther. I cannot allow you to take my beloved daughter away from me. Somebody. Get me a sword. Esther's dad. Listen to people talking. Esther. Blam. Esther smacked her father in the head. What is this? I could not keep up with the interaction between father and daughter and just stared at them slack-jawed. Esther explained to her outraged father what had happened so far. The story began when Esther aspired to become an adventurer. She learned that even merchants of political marriages She was about to marry into a noble family that she did not even know. She did not like it, and so Esther left the house. Growing up while listening to heroic stories from ancient times, Esther aspired to be an adventurer. Once she decided to become an adventurer, she would not return home until she became a proper adventurer, no matter what. Even if it were painful, she would not raise her voice. She will never regret the path she has chosen. With that determination, Esther left home. It has been 3 years since then. Esther has become a D-rank adventurer. D-ranked adventurers are considered as veteran adventurers. She has finally done something worthy of the dreams she had started with. It was with this in mind that Esther stepped over the threshold of the Regulus Trading Company for the first time in 3 years. I was very surprised to hear Esther's story. At times, I felt that Esther's gestures were well-mannered, but I never thought that her parents' family was so well off that she would be asked to marry for political gain. I will introduce him again. This is my fellow adventurer Toru. Esther, my name is Toru. I am indebted to your daughter. Bastard, do not you just address her as my daughter, that is it. Esther's dad, I said we're friends. Do not antagonize him. Esther hit her father's head without any warning. It is not the attitude someone directs towards their own father. However, this shows the closeness between Esther's parents and her. I am Jack, the president of the Regulus Trading Company. Esther's dad equals greater than Jack. Jack tries to intimidate me up close. The nuance of his greeting is somewhat like a biker gang member. Jack reached his hand out to me. Therefore, I take it and shook hands. That moment, Jack ground his teeth and his face turned bright red. He is breathing as if he is enduring severe pain. Well, what is this? I was shocked by Jack's sudden change. Meanwhile, Che, it looks like you are training your grip strength. You have to do this much. Jack, stupid. Stop trying to intimidate him. Esther hit Jack's head with a loud smack. Sorry, Toru. My dad has always been like this. Esther, yeah. Well, is not he a good father? The values a father has is different for each person and each family. Jack is, probably, a good father to Esther. Regulus Trading Company has been given the status of a government merchant. The king of that time permitted them to use the name of the founder, Regulus, as their family name. Jack was one of the highest-ranked merchants in the kingdom. There was no way that a merchant would be dumb as to not know where his runaway daughter was. Information is the lifeblood of any merchant. Merchants' own information networks are spread all over the country. With that information network, it would have been easy to know that her daughter was infirmless. Despite this, Jack did not try to bring his daughter back. This was despite the fact that he had pulled out of a political marriage that would have affected his future as a merchant. That is how much Jack loves Esther. To the extent that Esther's future is prioritized over his own and the future of Regulus. I understand that feeling. I do not have a daughter, but I could imagine a father's feelings about his daughter's happiness. Because originally I was 32 years old. So Esther-chan. What happened today? Jack, I am 20 years old already. Stop adding chan. I came with Toru today to look for combat shoes. Esther. Kai. Jack, who was smiling with his eyes directed to Esther, quickly turned into a glare when he looked at me. This is where it gets interesting. For Jack, I am not someone that he could consider as someone useful to him. It is quite the contrary. He thinks I am a pest buzzing around his beloved daughter. It is no wonder that he treats me roughly. This is the reason why I could trust Jack, who is treating me terribly. It is easier to understand a merchant has a rude attitude rather than a smiling face. Well then, father. We are going back to the store to look for shoes. Esther, wait a minute. Jack calls to Esther aloud. He ran out of the office. A few minutes later, he came back into the office carrying an expensive-looking wooden box. If it is shoes, I think this suit Esther-chan. Jack, I told you to quit adding chan. Esther took a breath as Jack opened the box. From the inside, a pair of shoes embroidered with beautiful silver and young grass-colored threads appeared. Wow, I feel magical power. I could feel the magic in the shoes, though it was faint. It cannot be just any shoes. This is a shoe made of unicorn fur and mithril. The embroidery in some places is made of dyed threads made from crushed twin spirit crystals. They combat shoes with outstanding durability. In addition, these are magic tools. If you put magic power into these shoes, they will float for a short while. The soles of the shoes emit wind magic. How you use its ability to levitate will be a testament to your skill as an adventurer. Jack, who was explaining the products, had a completely different merchant look on his face. This was his public face. He had a soft smile on his face, but his words were strong. You can feel his absolute confidence in his products. You cannot go wrong buying products from this guy. That is how I feel. It looks like a very good product, but how much is it? Esther, I do not need any money. Jack, but I am here as a customer. I want to pay. Esther, no, I do not need it. If Esther-chan does not get hurt, that is enough. Jack, stubborn old man. Esther, with this, she is not even going to be able to argue. Esther sighed and tried to argue, but ended up just sighing in defeat. Maybe I can buy something too? I asked Jack while fidgeting. My shoes. Chapter 87, A Father's Thoughts. My shoes. Look on your own around the store, bastard. You are not some spoiled. Jack. When I asked him, he made a harsh instantaneous rejection. Scary? It is only normal for strangers to choose on their own equipment to protect their own lives. Jack. Do not do it sloppily. Toru is my companion. Please do not start a fight. Esther. Ginu. Jack, whose head was hit by Esther, glared grudgingly at me. His attitude is pretty obvious. No wonder he was hit. I opened my mouth while snickering a little at Jack's actions. Then, let's look for my shoes. Suddenly, Jack threw a wooden box at me. I hurriedly caught it. I will sell it to you for cheap. It is enough for a bastard. Jack. The box is one of the ones he brought to the office earlier. The box shows its age. The color has changed so much that the original color is unidentifiable. I am sure there is nothing weird in there, right? I opened the box with extreme caution. Inside, contrary to my expectations, were normal-looking shoes. I thought it had some material equipment, but it was Matsumo. From his attitude towards me, I thought that Jack brought in a weird equipment that no one would buy. However, even though he is a doting parent, he is still a merchant. It seems that he brought me some decent equipment. It is a devil skin, from a giant cyclops. These shoes are made from their tanned guts. The material got cursed for a bit during the production process, but it is okay because it was purified in the temple for 5 years. Correction. Jack really did bring me a piece of weird equipment. Purified over 5 years. In other words, it took 5 years to purify. The fact that the curse was so powerful is already giving me quite the scare. Is it really fine? Devil's leather? How did you manage to get hold of such a rare material? Esther, yeah, it is a very rare product that you can only get once in 100 years. I thought it would sell well. Jack, Jack tilted his head and wondered why it did not sell, but no one in their right mind would buy it. The material may be a bit unpleasant, to say the least, but the durability is far superior to any other product in the store. Jack, I smiled bitterly. It seems that he was aware that it was not a piece of normal equipment. The curse can be scary, but the extremely high durability is attractive. You can get a discount of 100 gold coins from being my daughter's acquaintance, so just 1 gold coin is the price. What do you say? Jack asks me, but I have already decided on my answer. Jack's perspective, the daughter I have not met for a long time looked more energetic than I have ever seen her. As soon as I was reacquainted with my beloved daughter Esther, I am quite relieved to see her healthy appearance. After leaving our house, I blame myself. I blame myself for pushing Esther so hard that she decided to run away from her home. After Esther ran away, I immediately used my information network as a merchant to follow Esther's whereabouts. It was not long before I heard that Esther had become an adventurer at Finlis. More than anything else, she has chosen to be an adventurer. It is a job that you do not know when you will die. I did not mind. However, I had never thought that my daughter would go for such a dangerous profession. I wanted to bring Esther back as soon as possible. Nevertheless, if Esther were brought back, she would be married to another family. For us merchants, aristocratic marriages cannot be refused unless there is a good enough cause. For example, the other man is infertile, is about to lose their nobility, or is involved in criminal activities. If Esther is too weak to leave a child, or if she is dying of an illness, we can decline the marriage. However, he was a partner who did not fall under any of those categories. Although I received the surname of Regulus from the king and rock solid in my position as a merchant, I still could not refuse marriage proposals from aristocrats. However, which is better for Esther? I pondered and decided that Esther had already died. If Esther is dead, the marriage proposal can be cancelled. She will be nothing but a stranger to me, but she would be happier than marrying a nobleman. Therefore, I sorrowfully made up my mind. Still, was not it better to bring her back? There was no day when I did not think about it. Adventurers do not know when they will die. It is a dangerous profession. The lower the rank, the less money they earn, and the poorer you are. Some adventurers could only drink muddy water. However, the higher the rank, the more often they will fight strong monsters. No matter how strong an adventurer is, a little carelessness can easily lead them to their death. No parent is not worried about a daughter in such a profession. However, I had already informed the aristocrats of Esther's unexpected death. I could have supported Esther from behind the scenes so that she would not be troubled when she became an adventurer. Nevertheless, if I did that and the information got out to the nobility, it would be bad. For someone like me who made a false report, I would surely be hanged after having my company crushed. I could not let the store that had been in business for generations come to an end in my own generation. Therefore, I could only watch and wait. Even if Esther was about to be killed by a horde of goblins, and even if she got lost in the Finlis forest for 3 days and 3 nights, I could only endure it. Oh, it was quite painful. I chose the wrong path, did not I? Maybe it was better for Esther if I brought her back even if I had to, Jack. However, when I finally saw Esther again, I truly felt that this path was the right choice. Just before running away from our house, Esther stopped laughing. Our relationship had started to crumble. Now she was laughing naturally. She also treated me like before. I am sure I did not choose wrongly, Jack. Being an adventurer is a dangerous profession. Nevertheless, for Esther Regulus, this was the right path. Therefore, I saw Esther off in her new shoes, and my chest tightened slightly. After leaving the store, Esther was no longer my daughter. She was just a stranger. Even if she came to the store again, I would have to treat her as a mere customer. However, this time it is special. This time was special because it was the one and only time that the god of fate had given him a chance to say goodbye to his daughter. Jack prays for his daughter as she walks down the path of happiness. He prays that she will be happy in her future. In addition, Jack prays, "Do not let her go for that person. He is no good, Jack," whether it is because of his observation as a merchant or his jealousy as a father. Unfortunately, Jack's wish did not reach any god. Chapter 88, Vice Commander of the Silverwing Knights. The day after I bought a pair of shoes at Regulus Trading Company. Esther and I went to the headquarters of the Silverwing Knights. My new shoes' grip on a stone pavement is solid. I walk around while enjoying the feeling of new shoes. The shoes that Jack brought out had some problems in how it was made, but their performance was outstanding. They gently wrapped around my feet as if they were cradling them, yet they were impervious to attacks from the outside. Although the entire shoe is as hard as steel-toed work boots are, it bends flexibly depending on my movement. Above all, the grip of the sole is better than normal shoes. The effort used during breaking suddenly is extremely small. This is 1 gold coin. I found a good product. Compared to ordinary shoes, the price is outrageous, but I think it is a reasonable price for combat shoes. By the way, Esther, should not you have talked with your dad more? It has been a long time since you have last seen him again, has not it? There is indeed a lot to talk about, but I left because I did not want to be engaged to a nobleman. If I am seen with him for too long, I will become a nuisance to father. Esther, that is the way it is not it? That it is. Esther, you can choose freely for marriages in Japan. Whether you are married or divorced, Japan is far from an era where people worry about what the world thinks of them. It does not even affect your career. Maybe that is why I could not really understand how important it was to marry a nobleman. I was born into a merchant family, but now I am just Esther. Esther's ponytail was swaying more energetically than usual as she declared. The Silverwing Knights headquarters is built in front of the royal castle. The building is twice as large as the Finlace Adventurers Guild. Adventurers who were asked to do the same as us had already lined up at the entrance to the headquarters. A considerable number of adventurers have already been gathered. The sheer number of adventurers in the line showed how important the ceremony was for the country to announce the order of succession to the throne. We stood at the back of the line for a while. Finally, it was our turn. What guild do you belong to and what is your name? Receptionist, Toru and Esther from the Finlace Adventurers Guild. Finlace, right? Yes, we have checked. Please take a seat over there and wait a moment. Receptionist, at the reception, we sat on a bench that is a few steps away. That is a different response. Esther, that is right. Esther and I tilt our heads and pondered. The adventurers who had been accepted immediately left the headquarters with 1 knight member with them. The knights guiding the adventurers are lined up next to the reception desk. I thought that we were likely to pair with one of them after the reception. In front of us, the registration of other adventurers is proceeding smoothly. However, we were the only ones sitting in the chairs and waiting. Thank you for waiting. You are Toru-san and Esther-san, right? Knight, oh, yes. Esther, oh. A male knight in his mid-20s to early 30s was the one who called out to us. The knight wears a half-plate with the coat of arms of the Silverwing Knights. A well-used long sword, which is clearly decorative, is hanging on his waist. Maybe because they are the Silverwing Knights, it is mostly made of silver. The only thing that was different among the silver equipment was the reddish-black small shield attached to his left hand. This person is pretty strong. Based on his appearance, that is my impression. Even if he suddenly slashes at us, there is no chance to prevent it. I am Themis, Vice Commander of the Silverwing Knights. I will be with you from today until the succession to the Yusta throne is announced. Knight equals greater than Themis. Thank you very much. I am Toru, a D-rank adventurer. Nice to meet you. Similarly, Esther. Nice to meet you. Esther. After finishing our greetings, we left the headquarters of the Silverwing Knights under the guidance of Themis. Themis is kind and has a friendly atmosphere. I will tell you about the patrol mission as we walk. This mission is quite simple. We will be walking around the city like this, checking for anything unusual. D-rank adventurers should not be in too much danger, but please do not let your guard down. Themis. Is there any rule about the patrol route? I cannot answer about the patrol route because it is a confidential matter. That is why there is one member of the Silverwing Knights with the adventurer party. Themis. I see. I thought. No matter how talented adventurers gathered are, after all, they are still unfamiliar with the city. They cannot move as well as the knights who train in this city regularly. Then, it is the policy of the Silverwings Knights to add one knight member to the adventurer party as the leader. A member of the knights, who are familiar with the patrol routes and precautions, will lead the adventurers as a team leader. This way, there is no need to disclose secrets to the adventurers, and the possibility of leaking secrets can be reduced. Also, if the members of the Order directly monitor the adventurers, there will be no one who can move undetected or skip their duties. It was the quickest and most effective method. So, we are just going to follow Themis-san around? Esther. That is right. Themis. It is pretty lax. Esther. Themis smiled at Esther's honest impression. Nevertheless, I also agree with Esther. As a job, it is less dangerous and easier, but I am not sure if I should be paid for it. However, if we changed our way of thinking, we can say that this is a job where we can be paid just for sightseeing. This was my first trip to the royal capital of Yusta. It was a good chance to enjoy the royal capital to some extent without forgetting about my job. Chapter 89, Patrol Mission. Themis Perspective. This is why the announcement of the successors to the throne is so important for the kingdom. You may not get a lot of excitement in this job, but I thank you for your cooperation. Themis. For me, the patrol mission is routine task. It was not interesting when the patrolman called it lax. This is the most important thing for the people in the city to live in peace. When I was told that patrol work was lax, I felt like talking about how our patrolling was contributing to Yusta. Nevertheless, I swallowed that feeling. They were the ones that the Adventurers Guild Master in Finlis had described as promising. The Guild Master of Finlis is a man of great talent. Themis. Speaking of Finlis Guild Master, he is a famous person and a former A-rank adventurer. He is an adventurer suitably named God's Eye. I expected that they would not be just any other people. In fact, I was surprised to see them. First of all, there was Esther, the female adventurer, whose demeanor gave him a strong impression of her abilities. The way she moved her feet, the way she shifted her center of gravity, her gaze. Everything was polished as a swordsman. A common knight would be no match for her. A squad leader should be able to compete with her though. I certainly felt the possibility of her succeeding well in the future. The problem was the other, a boy named Toru. He looks like a teenager in his later years, but his face still has some innocence. Perhaps it is his first time to come to the royal capital. He looks around while his eyes are shining with interest. In making this request, the Silverwing Knights held the guild prepare a brief background report on the adventurer for this request. The purpose of this is to check if the adventurer is working with any suspicious groups. In the background report, Toru was described as a lost person. No way, was he a lost person? Themis had heard rumors of lost people many times before. I also know that their existence deserves to be called an inferior person. Being in a party with Esther, I was wondering, is he a baggage carrier? This is because even inferior people can play such a role. However, he is a monster. The way he shifts his center of gravity is that of a swordsman with a fairly high level of skill, but techniques that even I do not know are emanating from him. Besides, despite his swordsman-like demeanor, Toru always exudes a strong amount of magic power. Is he really an inferior person? I cannot see the bottom of Toru's abilities. I did not know which to believe, the report, or my intuition. I had fulfilled my duties for many years in the Silver Wing Knights that protected the royal capital. I had been appointed as the vice-commander of the order because of my abilities. Still, I could not even measure Toru's ability. If this was my misunderstanding on the report, how strong is he? As a test, I tried to release a small amount of killing intent. The more it blended in with the crowd, the thinner it was. However, did something happen? Themis-san, he noticed the killing intent that was released from his blind spot, and knew that it came from me. No. Toru-san, I was wondering if this was your first time in the royal capital. Themis, yes. I came here for the first time. It is a very good city. Thank you. Themis, I was frightened inside, while I fixed my expression. Moreover, I resented Dilma who sent this thing to the royal capital. The corresponding person should be more than strong enough for the vice-commander. He is an important adventurer in the Finleys Adventurers Guild, after all. Aaron, it is indeed too much for a common knight to handle Toru and Esther. If a common soldier had handled them, the knight's hair would have turned white by the end of the request. I wanted to scream. How could such a monster come from inferior people? Themis, I felt as if I was being punished for stroking a dragon that I did not know where its scales were. The thought of it biting me at any moment made all the hair on my head felt ready to fall out. If possible, I wanted someone to take over. However, without revealing such a raging inner turmoil, I lead them through the patrol mission. I could not help but pray that the mission would go off without a hitch. Toru's perspective, on the first day of the mission, we spent about an hour walking around the city while learning about the patrol procedures. The main event was the next day's ceremony to announce the order of succession to the throne. On the day of the ceremony, the king himself would appear in front of the masses. That said, it is just on the balcony of the royal castle. He would not step out of the royal castle, and commoners cannot even enter the royal castle grounds. Even if they look at the nearest place, they can only see the king as a grain of rice. Still, the magically enhanced voice would reach all over the royal capital, Themis-san said. I was interested in what kind of ceremony it was. However, there is a patrol mission on that day. It seems that there is no choice but to imagine the ceremony while listening to the king's voice that can be heard from a distance. The next day, we met Themis-san at the designated place. As it was the day of the ceremony to announce the order of succession to the throne, the city was very crowded. In contrast to the previous day, the streets were lined with stalls, and there were many people dressed in traveling costumes. It was as if the whole country was celebrating. I walked towards Themis-san while looking at the stalls with interest. It is an amazing crowd. Is there ever a festival with this many people? It happens once every few years or so. The coronation is going to be even bigger. It goes on like this for about a week. Themis, oh. Our country is under the grace of Forces, the god of justice. At the coronation ceremony, the god Forces will descend on the bodies of the high priests and bless them. People come from all over the country just to see that. Themis, wow. I have heard that story from Esther before. I also want to see at a glance the advent of a god. And like that, I wonder if he is a decent god. I began to think of Nesis, with who I had shared several conversations. He must be stronger than her because he is justice. As I walk down the road, I often pass by knights with adventurers. It is unclear how many adventurers have been called in this time, but with all this, it is hard to commit a crime. The patrol was uneventful, except for a dispute between a store owner and a customer. The patrol mission was going smoothly. While doing so, I heard the sound of musical instruments from a distance. Whoa! I can hear the music. Esther, it looks like it is started. Themis-san turned in the direction of the royal castle. The music came from there. It is quite a distance from the royal castle, but the music is so loud that it seems to be playing right here. They are apparently using magic to transmit sound far away. When the music was over, the Chancellor began his speech. It was a long, brilliantly written speech. After that, I heard the king's voice. Everyone, we have gathered here today. My name is Felipe Samson Yusta. King, as soon as I heard that voice, the hustle and bustle disappeared. As if by magic, all the people in Yusta were listening to the king's voice. It is a very dignified voice. It is no wonder they fell silent when they heard his voice. That is how powerful the king's voice was. I am not sure if it is a skill like the king's dignity. The voice of the king was so great that I wanted to prostrate. At this time, I will announce the order of succession to the throne. The first in line of succession to the throne will inherit our kingdom of Yusta is king. It was at that time when suddenly, the royal capital, Yusta, roared. Chapter 90, Choose now so there is no regret. Toru and Company. The roaring sound was enough to shake my body. I lowered my body slightly so that I would not lose my posture due to these shockwaves. Then, immediately I look at the creature who made the sound. Black smoke is rising from the center of the royal capital of Yusta. After the shockwaves from the explosion disappeared, the citizens who filled the streets screamed, escaping all at once in the opposite direction to the source of the sound. I was swept away by the wave of people moving. I cannot even go to the center in this situation. Esther. Esther. I sent Esther a signal through my eyes. The next moment, I jump. Soaring high, I landed on top of the roof of a private house. Later, Esther got on next to me. What happened? Esther. I do not know, but it does not seem like a fire. The way the smoke rises is different from that of a fire. The sound of the explosion echoed again. At the same time as the sound came, the houses in the center collapse. Toru-san, Esther-san. Let's go to the area of the source immediately. Themis, who had climbed the roof before we knew it, told this to us in a serious voice. It is an emergency. As Vice Commander of the Silverwing Knights, I will allow you to pull out your swords. Please look at the situation and pull out your sword at your own discretion. Themis, understood. Oh, Esther, the three of us ran down the roof to the center of the city. I felt the magical power in the air as gradually increasing as we approached the center. The adventurers and knights who had decided that they could not take the lower roads were heading for the center along the roofs, just like us. However, as we approached a certain distance, everyone stopped in their tracks. Why do not they get down to the source right away? I wondered. I realized the reasons when I was 50 meters from the source. Esther, what? Esther and I stopped at the same time. The amount of magical power that began to drift from the center was terrifying as soon as we came. That is not all. The man who was probably the owner of the magic power was standing in the destroyed city. The moment I saw him, I felt a tremendous sense of fear. My skill is saying, do not come near. The magic power and murderous intent that drifted through the air pierced the back of my neck. The smell of blood drifted along with the dust from the collapsed houses. The bodies of those involved were scattered in the center, none of them retaining their original shape. One person who was late to escape is transformed into a corpse by the hand of a single man. This was the kill zone. If you step into it carelessly, you will die. Moreover, because they know that, none of the people gathered here can get any closer. Terrible, Esther, Esther whispered. Her voice was quivering. Is that a devil? Esther. I was horrified by Esther's next words. Devil, Lily says it is at least a level 70 creature. From a distance, the man in the center does not look much different from a human. However, the magical power he has is clearly not from an ordinary human being. So is his physical abilities. It is a person that tears a human apart with his bare hands. I did not think it was even human at all. If both of you can move, please save the citizens who are late to escape. Themis-san, I am the Vice Commander of the Silverwing Knights, who protect the royal capital of Yusta. Themis, if you want to protect the city, you cannot waste your life. Themis-san's eyes said to us. Without waiting for our reply, Themis-san jumped into the kill zone. I looked at Themis's back and looked at Esther. Esther was sitting down. Her skin is pale. About 1/10 of a second. After some hesitation, I took out my skill board. Skill points, 536, 45. Complete enhancement +8. Complete enhancement. Body enhancement +5. Body enhancement. Magic enhancement +5. Magic enhancement. Natural recovery +5. Natural recovery. Enhanced resistance +5. Enhanced resistance. Stamina +5. Stamina +7. Magic +5. Magic +7. Strength +5. Strength +7. Dexterity +5. Dexterity +7. Agility +5. Agility +7. Intelligence +5. Intelligence +7. Luck +5. Luck +7. Use points until the very last moment to raise your basic skills. Leave the extra points to make up for what you lack in the actual fight. Esther. Do not overdo it. Evacuate to a safe place as soon as possible. Toru? Well, wait, Esther. Without listening to Esther's words, I leapt as fast as I can towards the man who seems to be a devil. In a moment. Oh? The roof tiles were blown off after I jumped. The maximum value of my strength is different from before. Previously, when I focused on passive skills, I could not feel such a big difference. The only difference from before is my level. So, this passive skill has a positive correction based on the value of my level. After a few minutes of reflection on my passive skills, I quickly changed my mind. This is the best that I can do right now. If this does not work, nothing else will work. Originally, it would have been better for me to evacuate as well. Because I am an adventurer, not a member of the Knights. I am what people called an inferior person. Even if I go, it may not be of any use. Still, I moved. If an acquaintance like Themis-san might die, and I did not do anything. If I do not do what I can to save his life, I am sure I will not be able to forgive myself for that. Chapter 90, Choose now so there is no regret. Toru and Company. The roaring sound was enough to shake my body. I lowered my body slightly so that I would not lose my posture due to these shockwaves. Then, immediately I look at the creature who made the sound. Black smoke is rising from the center of the royal capital of Yusta. After the shockwaves from the explosion disappeared, the citizens who filled the streets screamed, escaping all at once in the opposite direction to the source of the sound. I was swept away by the wave of people moving. I cannot even go to the center in this situation. Esther. Esther. I sent Esther a signal through my eyes. The next moment, I jump. Soaring high, I landed on top of the roof of a private house. Later, Esther got on next to me. What happened? Esther. I do not know, but it does not seem like a fire. The way the smoke rises is different from that of a fire. The sound of the explosion echoed again. At the same time as the sound came, the houses in the center collapse. Toru-san, Esther-san. Let's go to the area of the source immediately. Themis, who had climbed the roof before we knew it, told this to us in a serious voice. It is an emergency. As Vice Commander of the Silverwing Knights, I will allow you to pull out your swords. Please look at the situation and pull out your sword at your own discretion. Themis, understood. Oh. Esther, the three of us ran down the roof to the center of the city. I felt the magical power in the air as gradually increasing as we approached the center. The adventurers and knights who had decided that they could not take the lower roads were heading for the center along the roofs, just like us. However, as we approached a certain distance, everyone stopped in their tracks. Why do not they get down to the source right away? I wondered. I realized the reasons when I was 50 meters from the source. Esther, what? Esther and I stopped at the same time. The amount of magical power that began to drift from the center was terrifying as soon as we came. That is not all. The man who was probably the owner of the magic power was standing in the destroyed city. The moment I saw him, I felt a tremendous sense of fear. My skill is saying, do not come near. The magic power and murderous intent that drifted through the air pierced the back of my neck. The smell of blood drifted along with the dust from the collapsed houses. The bodies of those involved were scattered in the center, none of them retaining their original shape. One person who was late to escape is transformed into a corpse by the hand of a single man. This was the kill zone. If you step into it carelessly, you will die. Moreover, because they know that, none of the people gathered here can get any closer. Terrible, Esther, Esther whispered. Her voice was quivering. Is that a devil? Esther, I was horrified by Esther's next words. Devil, Lily says it is at least a level 70 creature. From a distance, the man in the center does not look much different from a human. However, the magical power he has is clearly not from an ordinary human being. So is his physical abilities. It is a person that tears a human apart with his bare hands. I did not think it was even human at all. If both of you can move, please save the citizens who are late to escape. Themis-san, I am the Vice Commander of the Silverwing Knights, who protect the royal capital of Yusta. Themis, if you want to protect the city, you cannot waste your life. Themis-san's eyes said to us. Without waiting for our reply, Themis-san jumped into the kill zone. I looked at Themis's back and looked at Esther. Esther was sitting down. Her skin is pale. About 1/10 of a second. After some hesitation, I took out my skill board. Skill points, 536, 45. Complete enhancement +8. Complete enhancement. Body enhancement +5. Body enhancement. Magic enhancement +5. Magic enhancement. Natural recovery +5. Natural recovery. Enhanced resistance +5. Enhanced resistance. Stamina +5. Stamina +7. Magic +5. Magic +7. Strength +5. Strength +7. Dexterity +5. Dexterity +7. Agility +5. Agility +7. Intelligence +5. Intelligence +7. Luck +5. Luck +7. Use points until the very last moment to raise your basic skills. Leave the extra points to make up for what you lack in the actual fight. Esther. Do not overdo it. Evacuate to a safe place as soon as possible. Toru? Well, wait, Esther. Without listening to Esther's words, I leapt as fast as I can towards the man who seems to be a devil. In a moment. Oh? The roof tiles were blown off after I jumped. The maximum value of my strength is different from before. Previously, when I focused on passive skills, I could not feel such a big difference. The only difference from before is my level. So, this passive skill has a positive correction based on the value of my level. After a few minutes of reflection on my passive skills, I quickly changed my mind. This is the best that I can do right now. If this does not work, nothing else will work. Originally, it would have been better for me to evacuate as well. Because I am an adventurer, not a member of the Knights. I am what people called an inferior person. Even if I go, it may not be of any use. Still, I moved. If an acquaintance like Themis-san might die, and I did not do anything. If I do not do what I can to save his life, I am sure I will not be able to forgive myself for that. Chapter 91, Pride of the Vice Commander of the Silverwing Knights. Themis' perspective. Themis, who had reached the center of the city, almost cowered under the tremendous magical power. The man who had caused this commotion was definitely an unusual one. The word devil kept popping up in Themis' mind. He carefully drew his sword and readied it. Was it you? Devil. What? Themis. The man's words made me shudder. The first time I heard the man's voice, it was raspy and croaky. It was not that his voice had always been that way, but it sounded painful as if he had been screaming for 3 days and 3 nights. Did you kill him? Exclamation mark. Suddenly, the man shouted and attacked me. The next thing I knew, the man was right in front of me. Fast, Themis. I readied my shield amidst my panic. The small shield was just in time to meet the man's attack. The next moment. Themis. Themis was blown backward by the force as if a huge boulder had hit him. If I take a straightforward attack with this shield, my body will easily get injured. This shield is not for receiving those kinds of attacks, but for parrying. Themis used his shield skills, which he improved in his daily training, to parry the man's attack. Still, the man's attack was powerful enough for Themis to blow backward. My arm is getting battered, Themis. My left forearm is numb and hurting. It seems that the attack could not be parried in time and my bone is now broken. I cannot even see and react to his attacks, Themis. The difference in strength is too great. Themis is sure he cannot even hurt the devil, let alone incapacitate them. Even if he is here, Themis, who cannot attack or defend, is just a punching bag. Themis smiles slightly. Enduring the pain of the fracture, Themis held a small shield. My mission is to protect the royal capital, Yascha. The Silverwing Knights are the shield of the people. It is time for me to prepare. To become a shield. I'll kill you all. Devil. Sacred treasure release. Rebellion against inevitable death, might liberator. Before the man's attack arrives. Themis's shield glowed faintly. Light brimming with magic spread from the shield covering Themis completely. The next moment. Advertisements. Kin. The Themis shield completely blocked the man's fist. Devil. Themis, who had just blown away with a single blow before, was just slightly pushed back. Are you surprised at this change? The devil paused as his eyes widened in surprise. A single arm might be enough? Themis. I analyze my situation calmly. I have finally used the sacred treasure shield of rebellion that has been passed down from generation to generation. I have unleashed the sacred treasure using the command, Might Liberator. The shield of rebellion is a sacred treasure taken from the devil that was subdued in the kingdom of Yasta about 70 years ago. The Meatstaff family, who greatly contributed to the subjugation of the devil, received this small shield from the king. From there, the Meatstaff family has inherited this sacred treasure from generation to generation. The reason why he is the vice-commander of the Silverwing Knights at the young age of 27 is, of course, Themis' high ability, but it is largely due to this sacred treasure. The small shield of rebellion, which releases the power, Might Liberator, develops an inescapable barrier within a radius of 50 meters. In addition, if the user suffers damage, the user's defense is raised by the amount of damage. The more the user is attacked, the harder he or she becomes, until finally, he or she can never be hurt. The shield's power was perfect for a Silverwing Knight, a shield that protects the people. Of course, such power cannot be used freely without any compensation. From the moment he deploys, Might Liberator, Themis has been pouring his life into the shield. If I live a normal life, it is 50 or 60 years. I wonder how old I could live now? Themis. I imagine a future I could have lived in, but then I am quickly brought back to reality. Without the present, the future will never come. It is more important to get rid of this guy, Themis. I slowly approached the man. The man thought that I was going to be difficult to deal with. He looks like he is planning to move away. But, devil, that barrier will prevent you from escaping. He kept on hitting the barrier. However, the barrier does even move. Give up. You cannot escape from here. You will die here. By magic stone poisoned barrier. Themis, shut up. Devil, the man raised his voice filled with trepidation. In fact, when the man stepped into the royal capital, the multiple barriers governing the royal capital of Yasta had already affected him. It does not react to the magic stones of weak monsters, but if it is someone as strong as this man, the barrier will never miss him. Although invisible to the eye, the poison barrier is eroding the magic stone of a man. Eventually, the man's magic stone will be shattered by poison. It was a definite future when he entered the royal capital of Yasta. The question is whether I will have enough life until the man's magic stone breaks. But what if? If this man had no magic stones, Themis, you? Themis, distracted by anxiety, I was suddenly hit by the man as he shouts hoarsely. Unlike the previous attacks, each blow was heavy. The killing intent put into every punch is completely different. This man's attacks are now serious. As soon as I mention poison barrier, the man is no longer wasting time. I am convinced. Okay. This guy has a magic stone in his body, Themis. If he has a magic stone in his body, I just have to endure. However, Themis could not cope with the attack from the man at all. The attack is so quick that he cannot even read the trajectory. Level, status, skill. The man is overwhelmingly above me. However, with a punch then another, the pain gradually decreased with each attack. The sacred treasure has boosted the Themis defenses at a terrifying rate. What? What are you? Devil, my name is Themis Meatstaff, Vice Commander of the Silverwing Knights. The one who protects the people and vanquishes evil on behalf of the king. Be silent and rust on my sword. Themis, Chapter 92, Difference in Raw Power. Themis Perspective. Gnu. Themis. My sword approached the man. However, it never reached. My attacks were avoided easily. It is no wonder. The only thing that Themis has against the man is his defensive power. He cannot raise his attack power or speed with the sacred treasure. In addition, the damage has accumulated on Themis' body. The damage is so serious that the effect of the sacred treasure can completely nullify the man's attack. With so much damage, I could not make a decent attack. Who are you calling evil? You guys killed my son. Devil. What? Themis. The one who brutally killed my innocent son is evil. Devil. Wait, what are you talking about? Themis. Questioning is useless. Devil. Coup. I was stuck on the man's words, but I lost the opportunity to ask. From there on, the devil continued his barrage. I am receiving no damage. The sacred treasure has fully increased my defense. However, even if I can withstand the attack, I do not have the power to stop the attacks. Perhaps because he realized that his bare hands would not do any damage to me, the man took out his sword from an empty space. He has inventory. Themis. The sword was huge, as tall as a child. The tip of the sword approached me. Does this not look bad? Themis. I barely react to it. However, I was too late. A dull blade touched Themis' neck. Exclamation mark Themis. New. Devil. The man's sword, however, only hurt Themis' neck by a millimeter. Her. As expected, but that chilled me to the core. Themis. Themis is relieved from his luck. Today is the first time he used sacred treasure. This is the first time I have used a sacred treasure in my life, so I do not really know how far the sacred treasure can repel an attack. I panicked, thinking that weapons would be unaffected, but it seems that the sacred treasure can ward off all kinds of attacks. The man then summoned flare on his palm. Advanced magic that could burn the village to the ground was unleashed on me. But even that did not affect me. Coup. Themis. From there, I continued to be attacked by all kinds of spells. 100 or 200 shots. Themis, who continued to be attacked, suddenly noticed that the attack had stopped. Her. Devil. The man's breath has become labored. Still, the man continued to blame me. Despite this, I received no new injuries. As expected, sacred treasures that can defeat devils. Not enough, Themis. I am no longer receiving any damage. However, I cannot stop worrying. Is the poison still working? Themis. How long will my life power the sacred treasure? Themis. How long do I have to endure before the man dies? Themis. Themis felt like he had been fighting for a long time. In reality, only a short time has passed. However, if nothing is done, Themis may fall first. The signs had already appeared. Cough. Themis. When Themis coughed, a huge amount of blood spilled out. I do not know if this is due to the accumulated damage or has my life been reduced too much. However, I can only conclude one thing. I do not have enough time. How about the other guy? The man grinned. If you keep quiet, you're going to die soon. Devil. I'm not sure about that. I think the poison barrier is starting to affect you too. Themis. Would you like to know? Devil. Themis. The man laughed confidently. Well, what do I do now? While I was thinking. What? Advertisements. A familiar boy wielded a long sword and slashed at the man. That boy, Toru. Themis was stunned by the sudden appearance of Toru. Did he not run away? Why? Themis. To Themis, it looked as if Toru was pressured by the man's aura. It was understandable. All the other adventurers and members of the Silver Wing Knights were so pressured that they were paralyzed. When a truly strong enemy appears, it does not matter how powerful you think you are. The last thing that pushes your body forward is the strength of your heart. He just is a boy under the age of 20. It would be unreasonable to expect a boy to have the strength of mind that surpasses that of an ordinary adult. The reason why I am still able to move was because I spent every day training, building up my determination to use my sacred treasure to burn up my life at any time. Does he have that determination too? Themis. Soon Toru is no longer affected by the man's atmosphere. He was attacking the man, skillfully manipulating his black long sword. His skill in swordsmanship is higher than mine. I could barely follow the trajectory of this sword. The man who has been attacked by Toru is also someone terrifying. Will this be enough? Themis. It was then that I found hope. Yarakisi. Devil. Note, I think this is his son's name. Toru. The man wielded a great sword with just his strength. Toru receives the attack with his sword. Avoid, Themis, avoid it. Before I could say those words, the sword came. Toru's body was blown like a pebble. Toru, who was blown away by force, crashed towards a house. The house that Toru crashed into collapsed on top of him. Chapter 93, Missing Clues. Themis perspective. Wah! The sight left me speechless. In my eyes, crashing into a house was fatal. Even if he is alive, he can't go back to fight, Themis. Themis grabbed his back teeth. You should never directly accept such a powerful attack. It is the fundamental rule to parry such attacks. Especially with the recent attack, I could see that the man was trying to apply more force. However, Toru received a direct attack. Toru, who was technically on the offensive on the man, should have been able to parry. This was a spur-of-the-moment choice mistake. People with little combat experience often make this kind of mistake. If he had a little more combat experience, Themis. I couldn't help but curse the fate of a promising boy who met a strong enemy at this time. Toru's perspective. Toru, who was thrown by that man, was crawling out of the collapsed house. Hey! That was dangerous. I am covered in dust, but I am not injured. I was blown away with a pretty strong attack, but all of that force was passed on to the house's wall by using Aikido. That is why the house collapsed completely. If I had not been able to do this, I would have been seriously injured. The difference in Aikido's level was significant. You can't make up the difference in the basic level, after all. I foolishly received the attack in order to see how far I can compete with my opponent's strength. The moment I was attacked by that man, I felt a dull impact on my arm. If I endure it, my arm will surely break. After making a quick decision, I kicked the ground and flew backward on my own volition. In that way, the burden on my body was reduced. Note, but the bricks? The impact? What I learned from this blow is that the physical ability of that man is overwhelming. And if I don't have good movement, I can get crushed by his strength. I used the skill board to greatly enhance my skills. However, it should not be a brute force approach such as raising the level of my physical attacks. It was possible if my opponent was some half-baked fighter. However, my opponent is not in the slightest. Okay. I regained my fighting spirit and jumped out of the collapsed house. The strategy has been decided. The only thing left to do was to defeat the man without taking too much time. Themis-san, who had sealed the man, was covered in blood all over. I had seen him vomiting blood from his mouth earlier too. It is not clear how he, who is full of wounds, has prevented that man's attack this far. But I understand this. Themis-san has no time to spare. I used my magic sword's bow form and shot an arrow. 3 arrows were shot. It all headed straight to the man. But the man parried the arrow quite easily. I can't use arrows, huh? I can't imagine a scenario of an arrow piercing that man. It should be no wonder. A bow and arrow's attack only travels in a straight line. Note, arrows actually follow a parabolic path. Just saying. I can't get through to a person with this level of ability without using a surprise attack. I immediately changed my plan. Magic sword is back in sword form, so I approached the man. I swung their magic sword while activating intimidation. Cut, thrust, evade, parry. I attack while adding feints. But my attacks are easily received. This man can really fight back. I avoid his wide slashes. However, my movement was too wide. I showed him an opening. Ku. Ora. Devil, the man wielding a great sword slashed at me continuously. It was a great sword that is 2 or more times larger than my magic sword, is swung so quickly that it does not look heavy. It will be bad if I receive a single attack. I desperately avoid the slashes. The opponent's attack are too fast for me to make a counterattack. There was too much waste in my evasive maneuvers. I have to avoid it more compactly, analyzing, adjusting, and applying, making full use of thought acceleration. Advertisements, my body gradually performs the ideal movement. Evasion LV1, acquired. Is it a little too easy? I can't let my guard down. However, I was able to keep up with the man's attack even by a little at a time. More. Evasion LV1, evasion LV2. There are signs that I can make counterattacks. I wielded my magic sword in time with my opponent's attack. Counterattack LV1, acquired. SHHH. Devil, Ku. My attack was swung at the right moment. However, it was just a close call. The man avoided my attack. Okay, how about now? Now I began to get on the offensive. Die. Devil, the man casts fire magic with chantless casting. This is bad. I immediately halted my attack. I took a step back quickly. If I had continued my attacks, I would have been burnt by plunging into the fire magic that the man casted. Disappear as ashes, flare. Devil, the man held his hand and fired, flare, at me. How do I prevent this? What should I do? I thought about countering, flare, with water ball. But this is the city center. Although heavily destroyed, the buildings still remain. If I use water ball, I won't be burned with flare. However, there is a possibility that the magic will collide with each other and cause a steam explosion instead. If an explosion occurs, the buildings around this area will disappear. I didn't want the damage to spread anymore. Within a fraction of a second, by maximizing thought acceleration, a scene from the past emerged. This is it, Chapter 94, when things you didn't use back then see the light of day. I poured magic power into my hand and shot it towards the incoming flare. In the blink of an eye. FSSSH. A cracking sound, like plastic crumbling, echoed through the air. At the same time, the incoming flare disappeared. Anti-magic LV1, acquired. What there? Devil. When I countered the magic that the man casted on the fly, I never thought that magic would be completely neutralized. Flare disappeared from my eyes, and I felt relieved. I used the same amount of magic power to offset the spell. Before, I used this technique once when Lily released a spell. It was a success, and it went better than Toru imagined. What made it successful at the first time was the high level of Toru's magic art skill. Also, thanks to his daily magic training. Well, how about this? Devil. The man casted flare again. This time 3 at the same time. If I received this, I would have gotten totally disintegrated, including my bones. Also, this entire area will become a sea of fire. Even stones should melt in such a high temperatures. I calmly used anti-magic. Anti-magic LV1, anti-magic LV2. I immediately approached the man as I neutralized his magic. Swinging their magic sword swiftly, I will not allow any openings. SHHH. Noog. Devil. For a while, our exchange on offensive and defensive movements continued. However, I can now see clearly the attack pattern he learned from that werewolf. It was as if Toru was now cornering this man in a game of chess, blocking his choices 1 move at a time. After 10 or 20 moves, he finally found an opening. Finally, the man had a huge gap in his defense. Toru thoroughly repelled that man's unreasonable attack with all his might. The man's great sword was flung over his head. A chance? I swung their magic sword at the man's neck. Magic sword definitely tore the man's throat. Well, it should have been torn. However, the man is not even hurt. No way. A man swings his great sword down from above. I have no time to be surprised. I immediately moved back. At the same time, I opened my inventory. Shana's perspective. The man who attacked the royal capital of Yusta, Shanus, was suddenly surprised by the green color that covered his sight. I thought the boy who had been fighting had unleashed a spell I had never seen before. However, I immediately realized that this is not a magic spell. I do not feel any magical power from the green. It also smelled like dead leaves. If I look closely, I can see that the green is grass. TSK, you even have inventory, Sanus. The boy released the yard trimmings that he had been keeping in his inventory towards Sanus. Shanus does not know why he put the vegetation in his inventory. When people store unnecessary items, it just takes precious storage space. Did he have it as an emergency smoke screen? Sanus. If so, he is not some easy-to-read opponent. In fact, I was having trouble with this boy. I am a skilled warrior who has reached level 60. I am confident that if my opponent was a human being, they would be ground to dust even if I am unarmed. In fact, the humans in the royal capital of Yusta could be destroyed just by being beaten by my fists. But this boy and the other man were different. I can't keep standing in a place like this. Sanus. A large amount of poison magic is still pouring into the magic stone on my chest. 1 hour or 2 hours. Soon, I will die. I knew that there was such a barrier in Yusta. I predicted that once inside the city, I will never be able to get out alive. Still, I had to enter the royal capital of Yusta. To kill all humans in Yusta. A few seconds have passed since the boy left the vegetation. Advertisements. Still, the vegetation is still floating around Sanus. Is it wild magic? Sanus. The boy continues to make the vegetation float using wind magic. Should I burn it all with flare? Such an idea goes through my head. However, when aiming at a target close to the caster, magic can also affect the caster. Burning the surrounding vegetation will also cause some burns to Sanus. I hesitated, wondering what I should do. At that moment, I sensed killing intent from beyond the plant debris. It is coming, Sanus. I held my great sword in front of me. The next moment, 3 jet black arrows flew out from behind the trees that covered his vision. If it were a normal person, the arrows would have definitely pierced him. However, he was dealing with Sarnas, an experienced warrior. It's not like he's going to be slowed down unless he's bombarded continuously. Ha! Sarnas. I casually deflected an arrow with my great sword. It was at that moment. Gaha! Sarnas. I was attacked from behind. Nonsense. Sarnas. He had no idea that he was going to be attacked from behind at the same time as he had been shot by an arrow from the front. The only person in the room who could hurt Sarnas was the boy. The shield wielder was badly injured. Who else? Turning my head, I looked behind. There was a girl there. A girl with a beautiful blonde hair flowing from her back while equipped with an iron breastplate. I have never seen the girl. Someone new. Sarnas. Readying his sword, Sarnas swung his sword. Fortunately, the scratches are shallow. It's not enough to put a deep hand on Sarnas, who is level 60. Did the girl put her whole weight on the attack? Her body is floating mid-air. In that state, my great sword will not miss. I was convinced that I had killed the girl. But... what? Sarnas. The girl jumped backwards in mid-air, when she should have been struck by my attack. Chapter 95, Love is burning quietly and passionately in the depths of the mind. Esther's perspective. After Toru chases after Themis, Esther slumps down on the roof alone. The moment she saw the monster that appeared in the center of the room, Esther lost all control of her body. There had been many times when I had felt that the enemy was terrifying. I had already been surrounded by hordes of goblins. There had been a time when I had been attacked by rockworms, and that time when I had seen a queen rockworm for the first time. Especially when I saw the queen rockworm, I fell into despair. I even thought I would never go home alive. But this time around, even the queen rockworm feels weak. Death. That creature seemed to be death itself, swallowing all life. Would the slightest movement make me a target? Thinking about this, I could not even move my body. My body trembled and I can't even breathe properly. Esther isn't the only one who's scared. Adventurers approaching the center along the roof and all members of the Silverwing Knights are frozen just like Esther. This is normal. Human beings in the face of overwhelming power can be suppressed by despair. Even if I can't move, nothing can be done. Esther, so why is Toru moving? The question came to Esther's mind, while on the verge of giving up. It is no wonder Themis-san is able to move in this situation. He is the vice commander of the elite knights protecting the royal capital. His birth, upbringing, and abilities are different from mine. So what about Toru? Toru is a lost person who recently came from another world. Toru's world was neither a war-torn world, nor was it overrun by monsters. I heard that it was quite peaceful. Note, well for the developed countries I guess. However, Toru was moving. How can Toru move, Esther? Toru is moving, but I can't. I ground my teeth in frustration. Move. Move. Esther. Esther pounds on her thighs. However, her legs do not move. She can't even stand up. She was so frustrated and miserable, and tears began to flow. It was when Esther was desperately beating her thigh. Zoom. One of the buildings in the center of the city collapsed. Toru? Esther. Toru was blown away by the devil. He's dead, isn't he? Anxiety fills my chest. Then I saw a store. It was a store next to the collapsed building. The one that collapsed when Toru crashed into it. It was the biggest armor store in the royal capital of Yusta, one Esther knew very well. At this rate, that shop will also, Esther. Imagining the future of destruction, Esther found herself on her feet. Her legs, which had been unable to lift her no matter how much she pounded on them, moved by themselves. This is Esther, no longer Esther Regulus, just an adventurer. On paper, the parent-child relationship had disappeared, but her heart that cares for the memories remains unchanged. It was her feelings for his father that pushed Esther to act. I pulled out my long sword and ran on the roof. I will not let you lay one finger on my father's store. Esther, as I was running, and Toru jumped out of the collapsed building. Toru, you are alive. Thank the gods, Esther. Esther was inwardly relieved. The Toru and the enemy was evenly matched. At first, the man seemed to dominate, but Toru quickly responded to the man's movements. In this state, even if Esther assisted, she would only get in the way. There should be something I can do. Esther, as I was thinking, Toru swung his sword and tore through the man's neck. It looked to Esther as if he had slashed the man's neck, but in reality the man was unharmed. The winning blow missed, leaving Thor defenseless. Then, the man struck a blow. Instantly. Boom. Plant debris appeared around the man. I was familiar with those plants. Is at the yard trimmings after he cleaned the lawn at home. I wondered why he still had it. You should just throw those away. Advertisements, however, at the same time, she slapped her knees, saying, that's some quick thinking. Note, well, ain't that a coincidence, or it could be fate. On the other hand, a really good cover for plot armor, but it's good enough for me. The opponent is a fire magician. Blinding him with flammable materials not only obstructs his view, but also stops him from casting magic. As I watched, I suddenly saw Toru holding a bow. Looking at Toru for just a second, I nodded. Esther jumped at once, casting muscle enhancement all over her body. She raised her long sword high in the air. As Esther began to fall, Toru fired 3 arrows from his bow. The man deflected the arrows that Toru shot at her. On the man's back, Esther delivered an all-out attack. Gaha. Sanus, I did it. Esther, I gave myself a mental pat on the shoulder. My cooperation with Toru worked better than I had imagined. However, I immediately focused my mind. My attack from the roof that gained momentum using muscle enhancement was not fatal. The level of this man and his skill in enhancement magic quite high. The man noticed Esther as he attacked, so he swung his great sword. Esther is in mid-air, which made her unable to dodge. However, Esther did not panic and poured magical power into her shoes. Esther's shoes are a magical tool that she received from Regulus Trading Company the other day. How you use its ability to levitate will be a testament to your skill as an adventurer. Jack, I stepped through the lump of wind created by the shoes. I jumped backwards in the air. Thanks to that, I was able to avoid the great sword. He would not have expected his current attack to be dodged. The man's posture collapsed. That moment, Toru. Esther, I shouted. Behind the man who lost his balance. Toru, with the jet-black sword and flames, pierced the ground. Chapter 96, Prayer for Life. I covered his vision with grass and leaves and fired arrows, but the man brushed them all off with his sword. No. I shook my head. Even if the arrow pierces, the man will not be damaged. That is clear from the fact that their magic sword slipped through the man before. That man cannot be defeated using magic sword. What should I do? Thoughts spin rapidly in that moment. Magic sword does not deal damage. However, I do not want to use magic because it can destroy the city. So why not combine the two? As soon as I came up with it, I casted Fireball on my magic sword. The magic sword accepted Fireball, surprisingly without resistance. As if this was the way it should be used. Greater than, magic sword art cell V1, acquired. I'm ready. I held the sword. I saw Esther hit the man. The man makes a counterattack, but Esther kicks the air and flew back. The line of sight matches with Esther. Toru. The moment she screamed. Earth shrink. I kicked the ground. My body accelerates rapidly in response to the huge massive wind magic. I shot out like a catapult, holding the magic sword on my side. The distance of 20 meters becomes 0 in the blink of an eye. Perhaps he noticed my killing intent. The man turned his head. Sanus. The man twists his body by forcibly moving his vulnerable stance. However, I calmly predicted his movement. Ha! Along with a shout, I thrust the magic sword into the man's chest. In a moment. Go! The flame swallowed his body. I hurriedly stepped back as I was about to be burnt by my own flame. The man glared at me while pure white smoke spewed from his mouth and chest. His eyes are still filled with unquenchable thirst for death and hatred. Is this still not enough? In front of me, completely on alert, the man slowly kneeled and collapsed. I can't feel the man standing up. Counting slowly for 30 seconds, I released my stance. Advertisements. I let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, a scene I don't remember happening flowed into my mind. A bloody room. A young child is lying down in front of him. Gnashing and chewing sounds. Father. Child? The child made a soft voice. The father was eating his child's body without flinching and without recoil. The father was this man that I had defeated. But my eyes are different. The man's eyes were hollow as if he was being manipulated by someone. Exclamation mark. I suddenly inhaled sharply. My consciousness soon returned to reality. What was that? Toru. You did it. Esther. Esther rushed towards me, and she was looking at me. Her ponytail is swaying vigorously. Thank you, Esther. Good work. By the way, Toru. Was he a devil? Esther. I doubt it. I shook my head. I don't think he is a devil. Magic sword is a weapon that he got in Iag and it can never damage humans. If this man was a demon, my magic sword would not pass through him. If that is true, there is something happening with demons. Themis-san? Are you okay? Thank you for your concern, Toru-san, and Esther-san. You were quite helpful in this battle. Themis. No. Is that a person from the demon tribe from the eastern country? That's right. Themis. Themis nodded. Earlier, when entering the Finlace forest, I had heard from Esther about the demon territory. He did not deny that he was affected by the barrier. Only the barrier affects those who have magic stones in their bodies. If he is not a devil, then he can only be a demon. Themis, I see. I nodded to Themis-san's explanation. Themis. Themis-san? Esther. Themis-san, hold on. Suddenly, Themis-san coughed out a large amount of blood from his mouth. I hurriedly supported Themis-san's body, as he suddenly collapses. No way, the wounds of the battle. No. It's not because of the wounds during the battle. This is the price of using a sacred treasure. Themis-san briefly talked about the abilities of his treasure and the price, and told us not to be sad, because I will die as a shield for the royal capital. There is no greater honor. Themis, that. He has already used a tremendous amount of his life in exchange for tremendous power. Isn't it possible for me, a mortal, to save this? I won't let this be. I made my decision and summoned the skill board. A person who sacrificed his life and protected the royal capital will not face such a tragic ending. I won't ever give up. Skill points 45-0. Acquisition. According to Lily, recovery is a field of magic law. It is a power to call down miracles by praying to God. Please, God, please help Themis-san. Toru felt something leaving his body. At the same time, Themis' body glows softly and faintly. This is Esther, Chapter 97, Shadow of Plot. I covered his vision with grass and leaves and fired arrows, but the man brushed them all off with his sword. No. I shook my head. Even if the arrow pierces, the man will not be damaged. That is clear from the fact that their magic sword slipped through the man before. That man cannot be defeated using magic sword. What should I do? Thoughts spin rapidly in that moment. Magic sword does not deal damage. However, I do not want to use magic because it can destroy the city. So why not combine the two? As soon as I came up with it, I casted Fireball on my magic sword. The magic sword accepted Fireball, surprisingly without resistance. As if this was the way it should be used. Magic Sword Art Cell V1, acquired. I'm ready. I held the sword. I saw Esther hit the man. The man makes a counterattack, but Esther kicks the air and flew back. The line of sight matches with Esther. Toru. The moment she screamed. Earth shrink. I kicked the ground. My body accelerates rapidly in response to the huge massive wind magic. I shot out like a catapult, holding their magic sword on my side. The distance of 20 meters becomes 0 in the blink of an eye. Perhaps he noticed my killing intent. The man turned his head. Sanus. The man twists his body by forcibly moving his vulnerable stance. However, I calmly predicted his movement. Ha! Along with a shout, I thrust the magic sword into the man's chest. In a moment. Go! The flame swallowed his body. I hurriedly stepped back as I was about to be burnt by my own flame. The man glared at me while pure white smoke spewed from his mouth and chest. His eyes are still filled with unquenchable thirst for death and hatred. Is this still not enough? In front of me, completely on alert, the man slowly kneeled and collapsed. I can't feel the man standing up. Counting slowly for 30 seconds, I released my stance. Ha! I let out a sigh of relief. Suddenly, a scene I don't remember happening flowed into my mind. A bloody room. A young child is lying down in front of him. Gnashing and chewing sounds. Father. Child? The child made a soft voice. The father was eating his child's body without flinching and without recoil. The father was this man that I had defeated. But my eyes are different. The man's eyes were hollow as if he was being manipulated by someone. Exclamation mark. I suddenly inhaled sharply. My consciousness soon returned to reality. What was that? Toru. You did it. Esther. Esther rushed towards me, and she was looking at me. Her ponytail is swaying vigorously. Thank you, Esther. Good work. By the way, Toru. Was he a devil? Esther. I doubt it. I shook my head. I don't think he is a devil. Magic sword is a weapon that he got in Eager and it can never damage humans. If this man was a demon, my magic sword would not pass through him. If that is true, there is something happening with demons. Themis-san? Are you okay? Thank you for your concern, Toru-san, and Esther-san. You were quite helpful in this battle. Themis. No. Is that a person from the demon tribe from the eastern country? That's right. Themis. Themis nodded. Earlier, when entering the Finless forest, I had heard from Esther about the demon territory. He did not deny that he was affected by the barrier. Only the barrier affects those who have magic stones in their bodies. If he is not a devil, then he can only be a demon. Themis, I see. I nodded to Themis-san's explanation. Themis, Themis-san? Esther, Themis-san, hold on. Suddenly, Themis-san coughed out a large amount of blood from his mouth. I hurriedly supported Themis-san's body, as he suddenly collapses. No way, the wounds of the battle. No. It's not because of the wounds during the battle. This is the price of using a sacred treasure. Themis-san briefly talked about the abilities of his treasure and the price, and told us not to be sad, because I will die as a shield for the royal capital. There is no greater honor. Themis, that. He has already used a tremendous amount of his life in exchange for tremendous power. Isn't it possible for me, a mortal, to save this? I won't let this be. I made my decision and summoned the skill board. A person who sacrificed his life and protected the royal capital will not face such a tragic ending. I won't ever give up. Skill points 45-0. Magic Claw LV9. Acquisition. According to Lily, recovery is a field of magic law. It is a power to call down miracles by praying to God. Please, God, please help Themis-san. Toru felt something leaving his body. At the same time, Themis' body glows softly and faintly. This is Esther, Chapter 98, Meeting of Higher-Ups. Themis' perspective. In the small conference room of the royal castle, all the officials except the king were gathered. There was a bitter air on everyone's face. 3 days have passed since the royal capital was attacked by the demon. Although it had not yet been fully restored, the people of the capital were getting back to their normal lives. Thanks to the vice-commander of the Silver-Winged Knights, the damage was kept to a minimum. However, this attack smeared the king's face with mud. The ceremony to announce the line of succession to the throne is a ceremony that will determine the future of Yusta. The prestige of the kingdom of Yusta is tattered in wounds, as they were forced to cancel because of a single demon. Now, we should retaliate against the demons. Official. But the demons have sent a letter saying that it has nothing to do with their country. Official. Even if the war starts, we must first get the word out to the other country. Official. Who will pay for the war? Official. The question is, how do we get to the end of the war? Official. In the first place, isn't it the problem that the Silver-Winged Knights were not able to properly protect the royal capital in this case? Official. Okay. The deputy leader used the treasure to protect us, so more than that. Official. Opinions collide. The number of people who wished for war was still small. The king's face was smeared with mud, but the nobles were unscathed. In the event of the war, it was the local nobility who would pay the expenses and provide the men. The nobles are loyal to the king, but they will not act unless it is in their interest to do so. Local nobles are, so to speak, the owners of the city. If they put too much priority on appearances and run their businesses at a loss, their fiefdoms will easily collapse. That's why there are few people who want to start a war. The debate continued for a while, but in the end, the moderates prevailed and the discussion came to a close. And about the hero who saved the royal capital, is the reward decided? Official. Well, then I will proceed with the report. Themis. It's finally my turn. On behalf of the Silver-Winged Knights, Vice-Commander Themis came forward. The Silver-Winged Knights evaluated the 2 adventurers who made this achievement. Please see page 5 of the report. The dry sound of paper rustling echoed in the conference room. After confirming that everyone had opened to the 5th page, I told the heavyweights about the assessment. The attacker was Sarnas. He was the strongest warrior in the demon tribe and was a person who was good at fighting. The person was subdued by 3 people including me. Without me and the 2 others, the royal capital would have been more severely damaged. Moreover, I alone could not stop Sarnas. This is because Toru-san and Esther-san aggressively attacked. In addition, Toru-san used some kind of power to heal my wounds. When I asked him about this power, he wouldn't answer me. My life was absorbed by the treasure, was supposed to die like that. However, I am still alive today. I don't know how long I can live. But I thought, God saved me to convey Toru-san's achievements correctly. Then, the remainder of my life is for Toru-san. Themis. Note, is this a flag? This time, I took the role of the reporter at the meeting on behalf of the commander. It was easy to foresee that there would be someone who would argue with him. But our Toru is an inferior. The one who is defeated by him is the strongest warrior of the demon race. Isn't that a little over the top? Official, I was right, I thought. In order to formally determine the achievements of Toru-san and Esther-san as a nation, we must deal with the fact he is an inferior. Even I, who actually met Toru, could hardly believe that he was an inferior. Those who haven't even met Toru-san would have a hard time admitting that he was an inferior and that he made a great achievement. That's why I enthusiastically replied. How good a warrior Toru-san was. However, the more I speak, the more stubborn the country's officials become. And it's not just Toru-san. Even the Silver Wing Knights are being called upon to step up, saying that they are a unit that can only be helped by inferior people. Is the stigma of being inferior this strong? What a stubborn crowd, Themis. I internally spit out venom. No matter how much I explain, I cannot persuade the officials. It was when I was about to give up. The door of the small meeting room was opened. The moment I saw the man standing on the other side, I quickly kneeled on the floor. The same is true for others. While sitting in their chair, they bow deeply. Good. Make yourselves comfortable. King, it was King Yusta himself who appeared. Your Majesty. Why are you here? Official, when I passed by, I can hear your voices. King. The king walked majestically and took a seat at the far end of the room. Is it about the reward for those who have made achievements? King. Yes, Your Majesty. Official. Then do what Themis says. King. But Your Majesty. In my words, this person is an inferior. It is too much to reward an inferior. It may have a bad influence on the people of the country. Chancellor. The Chancellor told His Majesty. But he's the hero who saved the royal capital of Yusta. Even if he's an inferior, we can't save face unless we reward him for what he's done. King. But. Chancellor. I understand your feelings. If so, let's do this instead. King. What was proposed there was unprecedented in the kingdom. Chapter 99. Afterward 3. Rumors of the attack on the kingdom of Yusta quickly spread throughout Hagiu. Due to this attack, the announcement of the line of succession to the throne was being postponed indefinitely for the time being. First of all, if they do not restore the center of the royal capital, Yusta, they will not be in the mood to celebrate the birth of the crown prince. And because there is also a possibility of war with the demon country. Of course, few local aristocrats want to start the war. However, depending on the situation in the future, there is a possibility that the number of war openers will increase. For a while, the kingdom of Yusta would be in a state of tension not seen in normal times. Toru and Esther left the royal capital, Yusta, 2 days after the incident. The patrol mission undertaken by Toru had ended immediately after the incident ended, but he was unable to escape from the royal capital immediately after being questioned by the Silver Wing Knights. After receiving 50 silver coins as a reward for the patrol mission, Toru and Esther returned to Finlis. 50 silver coins in 1 week is good. Oh, there aren't many D-rank adventurers who can make this much money. Esther, it is equivalent to 500,000 yen. It's an amount I've never seen before, even as a bonus when I was working for a Japanese company. I felt a little rich. Having returned to Finlis after a long absence, we headed for the guild. This is to confirm the dismantled orcs. The meat wasn't fresh, so the staff was careful to sell it to us. Sorry. Guild staff, no, it's fine. Thank you for your concern. Oh, it's a magic stone. Can we buy this too? Guild staff, yes, please. The price of selling magic stones has reached 100 silver coins. As expected, it is good to bring 217 orcs. This is quite the reward. Yes, it is. But don't overspend, because you never know when something might happen. Guild staff, that being said, Esther was hoping for my cooking for the first time after a while. We made a few purchases at the market and returned to our home. However, we were shocked to see the state of our home.